This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Just a kid from Chicago.
Yes, indeed.
I'm just a kid from Chicago.
Yes, indeed. Chi-Town's in the building.
I'm just a kid from Chicago. Trying to make a way.
Stand up, Chi-Town. Let's stand up out here. Self love. Vision.
Trying to make a change. Why these haters want to take me out the game? I'm just a kid from Chicago.
That is much better. Welcome to Chi-Town's very own, the Self Luv Show, where our motto is on earth as it is in heaven, and as above, so below. It's produced right here on the YouTube channel. This Ain't That Network, TATN. I'm one of your co-hosts, 9 Mills, also known as Self Love. Yes, sir. What down, Chi-Town? What down, what down, what down? Today is Hump Day. Hump Day. December 30th, 2020. And well, we can be any place in this vast universe. And thankfully, we all Scooter chose to be right here together. Here together. What down, what down, what down? What you manifesting today, my brother, Self Love?
Love, self. Love, self. What you manifest?
Love, G. Love. So, man, what's vibrating on the south side today?
Oh man. Weather change, bro. I told you what happened yesterday. The temper dropped a little bit today, and then it heated up, melted it, made it more of a mess. And you were a little, closer to your mic than normal.
Is it coming through too loud or what?
It was cracking a little bit.
All right. Let me cut this down. Let me see. All right, is that better? Mic
Yeah,
check, 1, 2.
Yeah, you can be yourself there.
Okay, appreciate you. Yeah, so you say the weather is was a little nasty today, huh? What's the temperature like?
It got down. It started off around in the teens, and then it heated up and gotten probably mid to upper 30s, where all the stuff started melting.
Yeah. Brother Goose was saying that his windshield wiper had froze on him. I guess
Wow.
he didn't have the defroster on hot enough or something, so he struggled just getting home. Last night because you were talking about the snow and everything.
Man, if he ain't had no windshield wiper, that was insane.
Man, complete insanity. Yeah, though, bro. But what, December 30th? Which you got big plans for this new year?
Lab. That's They say what you do into the new year is what you're gonna be doing all year. So that's kind of what I do.
I feel that. So your DNA is gonna be in your DNA, huh?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I feel that, bro. I was listening to the minister. He was saying Farrakhan. He was saying that it's a time for reflection. For him. Of course, he's older, but and I'm looking at that approach myself. Just doing a reflection. 2020 vision. I mean, 2020 has been a remarkable year.
Very eye-opening, I'll tell you that much.
Completely eye-opening. But yeah, man, I'm excited though, bro. Today we got Michael McNeil,
Yes.
global cyber specialist, security specialist. I mean, his company that he currently works for, bro, they're actually responsible for distributing the vaccinations across the US.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So we're looking at a topic for the Self Love Nation, something that I feel our nation needs to take more seriously. It's something that anyone in this space would tell us that we need to take it more seriously.
Absolutely.
I mean, most of us lock our doors when we go home, right?
Yeah, but we leave our phones on.
Right. I mean, if you got a safe, right, most of us close it and lock it.
Yeah.
So why don't we trust this? I mean, why do we trust so much with this information?
Well, humans trust too much in a lot of technology and such and have no clue about uh, its vulnerability. And it should be prudent upon the companies to, see the vulnerability and take care of it. And instead of uh, pushing it to the side, because for financial gain.
Facts. Yeah, ignorance does seem to play a big factor in stuff as well. And yeah, I do agree with that. And anyone, Self Love and I, we did a study on this yesterday. So there's a live that was posted on this channel yesterday. I'm curious to know if there's anyone out there, that works in cyberspace. Maybe had some issues with cyberspace even, but I'd like to know, Self Love, if anyone, has any experience in the chat. So please put that in there. And I mean, I just think today, if you guys listen up and stick with us, you're going to learn a lot, and it can really, help, protect yourself, your company. Also,
If you have any questions for the guests, or feel free to put them in the chat. That will help immensely.
absolutely. And brother McNeil, we'll leave your camera off. We'll leave you muted. We'll get you in here momentarily. And yo, brother. Yeah. So exactly. So for all of us, actually, this is a burgeoning a burgeoning job opportunity, career. It's explosive, and so many of us are going out there, getting different types of work. This is like a craft. Some would even call it a science or an art.
Yeah, and it's going to be needed. The technology is not going to stop or slow down, and we're going to have to figure out ways to secure it.
Yeah, all of us can't, do code or shoot hoops. All of us, can't, rap or do drill music. Run around, stacks of money, cash. Throwing hundreds around like. I digress. But go ahead, Self. You do you, and you do
Hey,
you.
Please, it's of the utmost importance, especially after the hack, that you subscribe, When you subscribe, hit the bell for all so you get the notifications. Make sure you like and make sure you share. It's of the utmost importance. Thank you so much. And we got a little housekeeping video, and then it gets to the meat of it, the platform, the more growth and development platform. And please pay close attention to that. It's of the utmost importance. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
In entering upon this course of instruction, each of you should, so far as possible, lay aside for the time being all previous theories and beliefs. By so doing, you will be saved the trouble of trying all the way through the show to put, quote, new wine into old wineskins, end quote. Luke chapter 5, verse 37. If there's anything as we proceed which you don't understand or agree with, just let it lie passively in your mind until you have enjoyed the entire show. For many statements that would at first arouse antagonism and discussion will be cleared and easily accepted a little farther on. After the show is over, if you wish to return to your old beliefs and ways of living, you are at perfect liberty to do so. But for the time being, be willing to become as a little child. For said the Master in spiritual things, quote, except ye become as little children, ye shall in no wise enter into the kingdom of heaven, end quote. Matthew chapter 18, verse 3. If at times there seems to be repetition, please remember, the Self Luv Show is a lesson, not a lecture.
Platform. Silverback More Growth and Development Platform.
More growth and
Number
development.
1, repair our nation via reparations. We demand our silver back. Number 2, to connect our breadwinners with our activists. Number 3, show an accurate depiction of African American Chi-Town. 4, shine a light on positive influence. 5, heal our community one person at a time. 6, provide an unfiltered platform for our influencers. 7, recycle the black dollar. 8, to provide mentors for the mentorless. 9, to close the gap between us and our pink kinsmen.
Yeah, buddy. Shimmy, go, bus. We in here. Chi-Town is in the building. Let me step back off that mic. My bad, self-love. So we got, the last show, I kind of went into it already. This is Cyber Week. We believe we may have been hacked, according to Google and YouTube. It hasn't happened. So check that video out. The one we did yesterday. You'll see it right here on the YouTube. Like that shirt, brother. You'll see it right here on TATN.
Just so everybody know.
That is fantastic. The greater base situation.
Yes. You
Yes,
already know.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So I know time, is infinite, but it could be considered short. Quick 2-minute video. So have you did you watch that news on I think it was a news show on CNBC about the future of cyberspace? And I saw it. It's a 2-minute video. Um, I want to run it for the nation. After we get kind of a background of Brother McNeil, he can tell our nation how he came up. And kind of talk to, the mentor list a little bit. Then we're going to get into, how he feels that bag full of money, so,
Yeah.
so I'm sure he has some ideas as to, the future of, this space. So let's run that and then we can get this brother out here.
Cybersecurity is no longer just an IT problem, it's going to become a physical problem.
Everything that is digital has a potential issue with it because of security that goes with the digital age.
I see two issues arising with the Internet of Things. One unique aspect of IoT is that it's bringing cybersecurity into the physical realm, right? So that now that you've got wearable devices, you've got connected devices and critical infrastructure environments. So that's number one. Second thing is the diversity of platforms, operating systems, legacy environments really mean that providing the right level of security is going to be more complex and faster moving than any other part of the IT stack that we've seen it up to now.
IoT is the thing we're going to hear a lot about right now, right? And that's scary, but that's nothing like nano IoT, right? Imagine when we've all got little computers in our bodies with radio frequencies connecting out, which is really not that far away. In terms of diagnostics, it's like what you're seeing in your car right now, eventually be in your body. So we're in pretty deep right now, and we definitely have these things all over, but it's just begun. So we need to fix the problems now before we really, really depend on this technology.
If you have an automobile, which is more and more just a computer wrapped around wheels, and it's capable of being taken over remotely for either acceleration or braking or deployment of airbags or all sorts of things you can imagine, that's very concerning, right? I think things that are less concerning about the Internet of Things are the ideas of if your refrigerator
fill a bag full of
milk and automatically adds that to your shopping list at the grocery store. That's not something that I think we probably care that the nation state knows about, right? Or can hack into. So I think it really is specific to the data and what you can do with the data that will drive people's level of concern and security.
Trying to create standards around how these types of solutions are built, how they're designed, how security is built into them, how the data from these Internet of Connected Things is used. I mean, it takes time to create these standards, to have them adopted. And I don't think we're at a point where, as an industry, we can really wait for standards before we actually take steps to improve security.
Hey, YouTube.
Yeah, that was interesting. They're talking a lot about this greater data and also, nanotech.
That's what, man, I was just about to say that.
The suggestion is that humans will have this nanotechnology, right? Within us, quite potentially, or some humans, right?
Yeah.
And that can be hacked.
Yes. Which is very disconcerting because, like,
why would you put it in your body? Why would you put it in your body?
Well, they're saying to get your diagnostics so we can tell what's wrong and all of this and all of that. But they could sure kill you with that same technology. There's no way around that.
And say somebody hacked it.
Or don't say anything. Heart attack.
Man, wow. I mean, maybe we're going too far, but hey, man, enough
to push it.
Enough of these appetizers. Genius Club, Self Love, Tory Wordsmith.
Man, quench my thirst.
Man, so we're gonna get this promotional video going that TATN made for this good brother that honored us by taking his time out to sit with the Self Love Nation. We're loving to get this information recorded, and we so everybody knows, we already have a framework set up where there's not going to be any more disappearing videos, and if they do disappear, they'll be backed up. So we've
They'll be-
learned.
Yeah, they'll be back online. So don't even worry about it.
Correct. So that being said, so let's go ahead and run that. We're going to run a little bit of it, and then I'm going to start the introduction, and we're going to get this brother up here. And if your mammies don't want you to secure your systems, then, you know, I mean, seriously, I feel it. I feel it. Yeah, we need some Section 9, man. You know, we're working on that. Section 9 coming to a town near you. But, yeah, man. So Wednesday, and we're bringing in a boss.
Mr. McNeil, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Murphy, Ranking Member DeGette, and members of the committee for the opportunity to testify today. It is critical to both patient well-being and the medical technology industry that medical devices are safe and that risk, including cybersecurity threats, are appropriately managed.
And this boss is from Chicago.
What's
Reduce volume, please, Snoop. We're today's the 23rd, right? So what, the 30th? So yeah, we're talking. I'm gonna do a. So we're introducing on it. My brother. That'll go up tomorrow. Yeah, we're talking stuff. Man, so proud of this brother, man. Yeah, so makes you proud to be a black man. Those who know. That's real talk. My brother, Michael McNeil. He did his undergrad at the Greater Beta Chapter. Y'all may know it as the University of Illinois. Earned his Bachelor of Science in Marketing. Went on from there to Theta. Y'all may know it as Northwestern University. That's where this brother earned his Master's in Business Administration. As you see him there, this guy's a boss. He's provided expert testimony before the United States Congress as an expert in cyberspace, cybersecurity. I'd call him a global product security and services officer. He ensures consistent processes are deployed, in the healthcare market. That's what he's currently employed for McKesson. As mentioned earlier, this company is responsible for distributing the COVID vaccinations across these great states. Great family, man. I have some professional highlights. I'm sure he'll have his own. But businessman, Chief Privacy Officer for Big Reynolds. You know, Self, we did that show on Big Corporate, Snoop. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Reynolds, Pitney Bowes, Liberty Mutual. I mean, he ran their securities, bro. You know, not somebody that's under the desk unplugging the wires. Although that's don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking nobody's hustle. He worked at Medtronic, and I guess that's Royal Phillips. He is a member of the Department of Health and Human Services, Healthcare Cyber Security Task Force, chair of the MITA Cybersecurity Task Force, board member of the National Health Information Sharing and Analysis Center, husband, dad, brother. Self-love. In the Self-Love Nation. If we can get an electronic hand clap out of you guys, and self-love, if we can get a physical hand clap out of you, as we welcome this brother, my brother.
Waiting for this conversation.
Stoney is in the building.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. What's up, brother?
What's going on, good brother?
Hey man, you the man with the plan in your hand, man. Hey, you think you know somebody until you decide to you know, sit them down and do a show, and you start doing some research, and you find out like wow, I need to apologize to this guy for how I've been talking to him, man.
No. But what would we say? I'm like nobody else. I'm just a squirrel trying to get a nut.
Man, listen. Yeah, we'll save a few nuts for some of the other squirrels out here in the meantime. But big ups, big ups on your achievement. Self love. I know you wanted to greet this brother.
Thank you so much for coming on, brother. I've been looking forward to this conversation, and I know it's finna be expansive, and you finna lay it down like you always do.
No, I appreciate it, definitely, Tori.
Yeah, and bro, before we get going, I do all the shameless plugs around here. So this new he's plugging the National Kappa League movement. It's piloted by our brother John Johnson. Theta Noop is an actor, comedian, who also I guess is known as the dad of Smart Guy. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So go ahead, bro.
One of our Sands. So when we got it all started, Theta was a part of it with us coming down. So
absolutely, I'm sure they took care of you when you were down there earning that.
nice ice cream socials as we call it.
All right. Well, I want to remind the cybersecurity boss that we're live and we can't edit. So all right. So man, so just for our nation, one thing we do, brother, is we kind of get into like your background. Right. Our main group is Chicago. That's mainly our followers. Our demographic is like 45 to 55. But one of our tenets is, as we start chopping these videos down into smaller segments, the idea is to be electronic mentors for the mentorless, right? So a single parent or any parent could say, hey, look, I have a child that might be interested in this. Sit down and watch this. So that's one of our goals. So just so you don't think I'm just prying in your business. So
no, all good.
All right. So when and where were you born?
So I was born south side of Chicago.
Southside Boogie.
Southside Boogie. And, both of my parents were professional. One was with the U.S. Postal Service, and my mother was American Hospital Association. So you'll get a little bit of this, alignment with healthcare.
Right?
Both had accounting degrees, but my dad was, for the most part, in the accounting department, and he was one of those brothers that knew data like off the back of his hand, because he was responsible for a lot of the collating and sorting. So you name a zip code anywhere in the city of Chicago, he knew that stuff like the palm of his hand. And so that was very, very critical. And then my mother, she took her accounting degree and she was involved in doing research. And so she published a number of all of the beds, hospitals, the chronic acute rates, all of that type of information and data. And so that's what they was part of the upbringing. I have a younger brother that's about a couple of years younger than me, but we both grew up, went to Catholic schools. Both schools no longer, they're defunct, like a number of the other Catholic schools that are in the Chicago land area. But when we went to grade school, it was St. Leo the Great, and then we went to Quigley Seminary South, so the preparatory school.
Where was St. Leo located?
St. Leo was off of 77th and Emerald. So it was a few blocks away from where Leo High School, which was right, but it was like off of Union, in between, right there on Emerald is where. Yeah, and when Leo started out the Great, it at one point had been, I believe, like an all-girls school back in the 30s and 40s or whatever.
Wow.
And then they turned it into a, to a grade school, but it had a seminary, in the rectory, and then right next door to the church was where all the nuns lived. So, and I grew up on 81st and Sangamon. So I grew up just a couple of blocks down from.
Wow. Bro, I used to be over there all the time. You grew up right in the nation, man. I think they call it the land now.
Yep.
Dennis's liquor stores right up there up top on 79th Street.
Yeah, Morgan's at Taurus Flavors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bro.
Well, you already know. I went to Leo, so.
Man, and dude's uncle's bar was right there. And you remember my ex-girl from U of I stayed right. Bro, I know that area very well, man.
Aunt went to St. Leo.
Yeah,
sure did.
Anthony Washington, yeah.
Sure did. Yeah, small world, man. Small world. So you kind of so now you said where you were where you kind of grew up at over there. Describe what it was like coming up over there. And I know for you, sounds like you had a 2-parent household with,
a 2-parent household.
Yeah.
But you got to understand when my parents moved into the neighborhood, they probably was, I don't know, one of the first, 5, Black families that integrated the neighborhood. So you could immediately see it was like overnight, once we moved in, everybody else flocked up. And
That's
it was
what
kind
Tori
of
said happened over there in South Shore. Go ahead.
Yeah.
It was the exact same thing. But the interesting part is that when I grew up, and it's a 2-flat building, and we all maintain, our household. So
it's Ant's block, I think. Go ahead.
Yeah.
80th and
Sangamon. 81st and Sangamon. Ain't that where he grew up?
Yeah, that's where I grew up.
You got to know Anthony Washington's family.
80th and Sangamon.
Yeah, but go ahead.
He's on the on it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So, but when we got there, because I was, born in 61, we moved when I was about 5 years old. So that's around, mid 60s. When we, I lived with my mother and father and brother on the first level, and my grandmother, her sister, aunt, and they were, at the age they were, and they were also raising my cousin. They lived up on the second floor, but we also had someone that was a white female that was still a renter that lived up on that second floor with us. So in order to get that exposure to begin with, that was one of the first ones for me for when we moved into that neighborhood. And then obviously by the time I got into going into second grade, the entire neighborhood and most surrounding, areas had already been changed as well. Now the high school, if you guys know, and I'm sure Tori knows, was Calumet for the public school, which was right there off of Carpenter.
And for the nation, he's talking about the Met.
Yes, the Met.
Right, man. So that's pink. Now you're talking about the pink flight. I guess the other end of gentrification, and a lot of brothers that I talk to say they experience the same thing. And it's not always, from my understanding, it's not always about, hey, these people don't like these people all the time. Sometimes it's purely financial. It's like you've invested in this, and now the value is going down for whatever racist reason, and people are going to sell and try to maintain their wealth.
Absolutely. And it's a fact that...
I was just going to say, you guys realize that because now, years later, that's what you start seeing for people on the South Side and further south going into the South suburbs.
Yeah. And then those people in the South suburbs either coming back to the city or moving out further. And when are we going to stop? When are we going to stop, people? We're people. We're all one. All right. But, it's that's not him talking. That's me talking. So now I want to ask, talk to us about, your parents, maybe your elders, maybe some of the chores, like how they kind of, some of the foundational things that you remember that they instilled into you and that you maybe instill into, yours and like that.
It's as I think through, part of it obviously it's my own DNA, and when I say that is because my brother was close in age, but our personalities are, and anyone that knows, my brother David and I love him to death, but if I go right, he's definitely going left. And so my parents, my mother is always was known of saying, you know what, it was like I raised two only children because of what their needs were.
Right.
And so by me being the kind of the older, of the siblings, I always had a little bit of a drive in terms of what the focus was going to be, and didn't necessarily, I took what I had from my parents, which were, always seeing, work. I mean, my father, and both my parents are deceased now, but my father, rest his soul, anybody else that came up and worked with him, and he knew from back in the days with the Postal Service, I mean, he put in 40 something years, retired, and, and lived his life. Same thing with my mother. She worked over 40 something years. So there was always that work ethic. And my dad used to always say, I'm always going to give him 8 for 8. He must have accumulated, as they would do still in the Postal Service. They accrue that sick leave and that sick time, and it gets to roll over. So even though when he retired, he probably still was banking like 5 years of retirement pay, so that when he did step out, it was still as if he was on the clock.
How many days off do you remember him taking? This is just something I've been telling myself.
Only when we would have probably have done like family reunions or something of that nature, but and around the holidays. But that would have been it, because when we did vacations, it was, you hopped in the hoopty and you drove to wherever you were going to go. So it wasn't, we used to be up in Wisconsin Dells and
right
around,
yeah.
Up in Detroit, and
Man.
not even that far, but that's where
Santa's Village.
Yeah, that type of stuff, man. So he wasn't taking, nor was she, a bunch of time off. It just, wasn't what they were looking at doing. And again, they would always make sure that, come rain or shine, or, whether or not he tore one up that night before, and he was going to make it to work. So
for you, it wasn't, am I understanding this right? Maybe it wasn't so much about the lectures, because JB kind of said that it was more so about the lessons, like just what you were seeing.
Right. So it was the discipline of what I was seeing, with them, and what their interactions, and both of them provided different, for me, perspectives of what it looked at. So growing up, and again, the part of the DNA, when I was in the Boy Scouts, I'll use that as one thought process. I would have been a troop leader. So I was, from the group that we had in our nucleus, in grade school, would have been a class president. So that was something, I will tell you though, my approach wasn't, I'm just going to lead. It was the fact that I would have done some of the other roles and understood all of the different elements in order to then gain the respect and then be in that type of a leadership role. But that was something that we did. Bowling. I grew up in a bowling alley. That was another thing that was a perspective that we saw. My parents used to bowl over there at Starlight off of 87th.
87th, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every Thursday they
was that bowl. Cottage?
Yes, by Cottage Grove. Yep.
Yeah.
So, and they would take us, because this is how you get your schedules, man. We would grow up and hamburger night would be on a Thursday, because you could get that prepared quickly, get the hamburger, fries, and then they could load us up, and then we'd be sitting there, my brother and I, either studying in the back while they were bowling that, on a Thursday night league, both my parents. And so that togetherness was a part of that kind of upbringing. And so I bowled, throughout grade school, high school, and even into college at Illinois. And so, because it was always a part of the DNA. And then after I even graduated and came back to Chicago and lived and got married, our family still bowled on Saturdays at Evergreen Park. All this stuff is gone now. So it used to be Evergreen Park over there at 95th Street by the, behind the plaza.
Right.
Yeah. Became ever black. But yeah, now one thing I want to point out about what he said, Self Love, the bowling alley. So for you parents out there, it's one thing to say, yeah, I'm in a bowling league and I'm going to go do this. And, we're going to leave the kids over here on 80th and Sangamon to their own, whatever they want to get into. So the other thing, to incorporate them, what you're doing, into something that, maybe they can do later on in life. And as opposed to hanging out in the alley on, behind 81st and Sangamon, maybe they're in the bowling alley. That's just some food for thought.
Yeah. Yep, that's an excellent point. And the other key, though, again, when I talk about that experience, by me being there, that was the socialization. I saw how, my dad interacted, how others interacted with him.
How adults with jobs.
That's exactly what I was able to do. When we would go to the bowling alleys when we were kids, my mother would be there and she'd be one of the scorekeepers because we were over at Park Manor, which was off 75th Street. Okay. She'd be there Saturday. And so I saw how she interacted with other parents and with the people that ran the bowling league. And when she became the secretary in the leagues that we had, and then ultimately when I did those activities and then was president of the league, it was because I had that experience with my parents. So again, that, I guess for me, growing up, that was that experience, and they were always, involved and were around. My dad used to be one of the baseball coaches. We used to play over at Foster Park.
Yeah.
So
Foster Park, man. Yeah, it's a hoop in there, man.
Yep. So their involvement was very critical within my, upbringing in DNA. So I can't think of any milestones or even just day-to-day activities where one of them would not have had an integral hand. So.
Was there any interaction with other races? We're going to do this question, and then there's some hubbub in the chat, and we're going to go in early with itself because these are brothers with the hubbub. So from what you remember, so give me a time frame, like what year was this? Because this is about also Black history. 50 years from now, somebody be looking at this. Was there any interactions with you and your parents with like Jewish people or any pink people or any other races, like the bowling alley, any of that going on, Hispanics?
No, the bowling alley would have probably been, for the ones on the south side that we just described, would have been predominantly, white, Black bowling alleys. And now the establishment from an ownership perspective might not have turned over, but the people working behind the counters, the desk, and those that were the patrons at that time would have been Black. And this was about the mid 70s.
Okay.
This was probably late 60s, early mid 70s, if you can think about the time frame.
Right.
And the only interaction really was with clergy for the most part that was growing up at the school with St. Leo the Great. And then at that point, when I was probably 75, I came out of grade school. My exposure was with some of the deacons that then were becoming priests, and they were brothers. And so, because Leo used to be one of the feeders, and that's even how I got introduced to, really about the priesthood, and with Quigley was through, the priest. So I would tell you that going into high school in 75 was my first kind of indoctrination of we were total minorities, because it was like a 180-degree different culture shock, because of the fact that when we were at, St. Leo, and when I was in kind of the environments of playing ball and school and activities, up till then, it was all in a
all
black
segregated.
Right. Then when we went to Quigley, we were the minority within that education system. And so, and that's a critical part. I will tell people, and, some of my classmates, like, my ship, Charlie New and Bill Patterson, and, Goose was there. Goose and Marco Gustav and James Palmer, they were in my brother's class because they were 2 years behind us.
Right.
So, but one of the things that was critical is that once you got in that environment, that's how we all came together. I don't care which age of class. When the brothers stood up, we did something. And I remember going into high school, because this was right around the time where Alex Haley, had came out with his whole man, and you would have thought again, I keep it real. It reminded me of like when Trump got elected. Had a lot of people, flossing like they thought that they were, back over on some plantation and they were owning something.
Yeah.
So you had to immediately
nip that
back with them. And even though we were the minority, people did not want to F with us.
No.
Trust
me. No. So you're saying, they were making Chicken George references and thought that thought that was okay.
All of that.
And the reason I asked you about the time frame is, like you mentioned, Foster Park. It became quite different towards the late 80s and even the 90s, and whew, man, everything became different. So, Self, what's going on in the chat? We'll park it right here, brother, and let's clear the chat right quick.
Got quite a bit in the chat, and before we clear the chat, I just want to say, please like, share, subscribe. It's of the utmost importance, especially after what happened and what we experienced. That was a setback.
Fill the room up, noobs. Share the link. Go ahead.
And we're gonna really take this. And this information is vital. It's extremely important for the community, and we need to spread it. So we got Cannon Lambert said, so proud of these brothers doing their thing. Yo. TV Studio D. What's hood, fam?
What's up, Cosmo?
Yeah, Cosmo. Yeah. Asa Patterson, Wealth and Health. Omni Overseer. One Love, Self Love.
Skip down to the questions.
Salute, all right.
Mark
Omni Overseer says, from Brother McNeil, what dreams or aspirations did you have for yourself when you were in undergrad?
When I went to Illinois for undergrad, again, I kind of mentioned to you my exposure. And so one of my, at least goals or aspirations from having parents that both had undergraduate degrees was to make sure that I had a next level of education. So getting some form of a master's or doctorate or law degree was kind of what I was exposed to. And when I got into Illinois, I was pre-law. So coming into the school, my notion or thoughts was I was going to get a JD, and that was going to be the the direction that I was going to take. Little to know, I work with and advise and direct a lot of attorneys, and I will tell you, other than the general counsel, most attorneys are not at my level within the corporation or any of the corporations that I have worked with. And so I sort of had to, adjust the, kind of what I wanted to do from, my aspirations. But it was, I would say, at least initially, what was consistent was getting, the advanced degree. And then I passed it forward. So, son is graduated from Morehouse, and considering what he wants to do next. And he's a good Pi chapter noob, which
big ups.
Well, yeah.
Yo.
And daughter, which is older, she's emergency room medicine physician. So she also has
his brother Newman's guy, baby.
Yep.
Yeah.
Has passed it forward. So that was, I think, just from the aspiration. I always, again, wanted to be, leading and in charge and managing and directing something. So that was also something that was one of my kind of goals and aspiration. And right now, I think I'm still on track with what I have aspired. What I look forward, and we'll get into kind of the cyber and where I'm at, but one of the key areas that when you talk about wealth, that people that at least have worked in corporate and other types of entities, you want to be able to be on some of, be a board of director on a number of, paid for organizations. And so
you want to be on the board, huh?
Right. Yeah. Want to be on the board. Yeah. You want to be one of the board members. And I was able to just, I want to say maybe within the past 45 days, joined the board. And I joined it because of the fact of the level of expertise from a business perspective in cyber. And I'm now also interviewing and looking at other board opportunities. So my long-term kind of gain is when I do decide to not be in a corporate position, would be to at least have 3 board assignments that I would be working on. And then obviously I have, my other interests that I would be supporting, within the community that I would be in. But that's kind of my next phase in the game plan here.
So at some point you went there, you're thinking law, and then you got to a point where you're like, maybe that's a waste of time and energy for me because I'm more geared towards the leadership and the management, and I don't need a law degree to do that. I can just hire a lawyer, or we can have lawyers on the team to look at the legal ease.
Right. And when I looked at, so you kind of get this fork in the road when you're operating, and
it's fractal. Go ahead, bro.
Yep. And so the jobs that I was doing, so I when I came out, I had a sales gig, which was when you get a marketing degree, and this is what they'll tell you with Illinois or whatever, but you're not going to do anything with that unless you have a master's. I mean, that's just, when I hire someone, when I was doing all marketing and product and development work, those are the credentials that you needed in order to do that. Now, what you will do is you'll get your first, your chops cut on sales. And if you want to be, get your grind on and that's your hustle, and against it, but a lot of people, that's their DNA and that's what they love to do.
Right.
For me, it was a means to an end. And so my first gig was selling. And you talk about when you know something that you're doing and it's something you don't want to do for the rest of your life. I've had a few of those experiences. For me, directly with the type of sales that I had. Now, this is not like the internet, not like social media, not like the access to data and information that we currently have today. My first real gig coming out of Illinois was slinging copiers and laser printers, man. Wow. And I have to call on school, government, companies, cold calling.
That was a big industry. Yeah, I was on the toner side, but go ahead, bro. I was pushing toner. Yeah.
You know the drill.
Yeah.
And so what I learned was that I needed to go where there was high volume and where people were using these devices that they needed to make sure that they were turning them over. And so I was able to get promoted, get navigated into that in the first 2 or 3 years. But I knew from my heart that if the grind, for that kind of a grind, this wasn't, here's my, stack of accounts, or as they would call people that do business development. I got a lot of peers that, they spend time taking somebody to lunch and whining and dining back in the day, and they call that just maintaining the account. I got paid based upon bringing revenue in the door.
Right.
And cold calling. I used to go up to a business, you try to scope it out, think you got the right information to contact, and you there knocking on the door. Or you making a phone call. Can I speak to the president of, this division or this area? Hi, I'm Michael McNeil. I work with Royal Business Machines, Konica, Kanishiruku copiers, and I'd like to, sell you this type of a system.
Did you make any kind of interesting connections on any of those people that you were meeting out there in the field that later,
It was some, but because it was more, not because of the job, but because how I approached the job.
Mm-hmm.
So I was heavily involved in targeted, government education accounts, so the GEM accounts.
Okay.
So when I went in, I knew certain leaders within those institutions, and this would be a good lead for how I got my next job, because I was calling on and making those relationships. I was back at Illinois Circle, and the guy that I had interviewed with, but they didn't have any openings in their program at Illinois Bell at the time, was there at the university. So when I go up to Circle campus, I called on Gordon Phillips. I had made my connections from my previous job, and I made an impression with him when I interviewed, 2 or 3 years before, at U of I on campus in Champaign.
That's why they say, be humble and respectful to people on your way up, because you'll see those same people on your way down or on your way up.
Right.
So yeah, but you weren't sitting around on the couch and these people were saying, hey, get off the couch.
Right.
Hey, come on, get off the couch. Right.
Yeah.
No,
there was none of that.
No.
Yeah.
And I don't say it to be, snarky. I just said that, when I was driving, for Uber, I would talk to people and ask them what they do and everything. And it's just a certain consistency, that they talk about that, you don't know what you don't know until you get out and start doing it, but you got to get out and start doing stuff. And then you make connections. Marlon sat there, said the same thing. I mean, you just hear it over and over and over again.
Right.
Yeah.
The connection point is important. And to your point, it's knowledge. The more you can gain from a knowledge perspective, the more you can then be relatable to people and then be able to communicate, give back.
Facts.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power. We want to do this chat real quick because there's some great questions. Some of them are ones I had, and you're covering a lot of the stuff I had. So we're moving along. This is moving great. I did want to comment, pretty boy Mark Daniels, Capship, Kamikaze, Death Squad, the One Club. He said, this is a super power. He's not talking about your suit. Thanks, Brother Daniels. He said, this is a super power suit. I love the perfection. Thank you, Brother Daniels. Thank you very much. But go ahead, Self Love. Clear those a couple more of those questions. Yo.
Okay, Mark Daniels also asked, do you credit your work ethic and drive to having a spiritual component, a foundation in religion?
That's a very, very strong one. Yes. So I am a pretty devout still Catholic. It's been, obviously COVID has taken its toll on all of us. And it's been, a little bit more difficult for me when you've relocated in order to have that base of community. And so that's why I rely, yes, spiritually as my foundation, but you'll find that even when I travel and I'm I remember being over in India, and I was able to find a Catholic, church because I was going to be there over this 10-day period. And the one thing, at least from the religion perspective, they had their own components of the customs because of being in India. So you were not going to walk into the church with something, shoes on. So what you saw was that a lot of people had taken their shoes off or or when they had gotten to the pews, they didn't have the shoes on.
Wow.
Because of just the tradition within that environment. But the rest of the Mass and its communication and the readings and, the homily and gospel, everything was consistent. And so I do, to the question, put that in the foundation. And again, just from the growing up, my mother was probably our driving force, and she was extremely devout from a Catholic and Catholicism, and my father converted and became from Methodist to being a Catholic just right when we were going into in high school, mid-70s.
So are you crediting the Catholicism or the spirituality or your drive,
No,
or are they interlinked? Or
well, what I would credit is you have to have some kind of that foundation, and mine from the discipline and our ability to connect as a family. That was always one of the foundations. So we were in a position that our nucleus participated, celebrated, and kept that as a foundation. And when I, again, moved away from Chicago in the 90s, I always had two things I had as sort of that foundation. That was one in terms of the outreach. The other for me was my brotherhood. And so it always allowed me to be able to have that security blanket and acknowledgement of a commonality, of like men, minds, achievement, in every field of human endeavor.
Facts.
So that was the, kind of our, my base.
And I want to say, as greater as that question was, it was also unfair, because it was a great question. It's just tough to separate the two. Like, you know what I mean? Like, right? Because everything you do is of spirit.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, your spirit is moving you to that work ethic. I don't know, but you know what I'm saying? It's a tough question. It's a tough question. I love it though.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Self.
Yeah. Canon Lambert asks, were you aware of the benefits you were getting from your parents' example while in the moment as you were growing up? Because that's very interesting.
Right. Was it subconscious, or were you conscious of it? Or if you did become conscious of it, at what point? Great question. See this?
The example, the foundation
before you answer, this is why we asked the chat. This is why we asked the chat for what, Self? Questions.
Yes, because man, we have a very intelligent.
My goodness. All right, but all right, go ahead, bro.
I would say was not conscious in the moment that I was being given those examples. It was after the fact. And again, I will also tell you, I have the better example as to raising my children and now seeing them have children and seeing this, you see that they now have that recognition where it wasn't there consciously with what they're doing, and you can hear it because you see them, exemplifying similar types of traits and examples. And so that's how I kind of knew, and I probably would say the consciousness of what I described. And it just, even just talking about, your parents, especially when you have both of them gone, and what they meant to you, and from an experience, I never would have done, and no, I haven't, full justice over the years while they were there. But I would probably say, once I started having, children and, in my 20s, and then definitely by, early 30s, when your kids are beginning to get up in a little bit of, their teens and age, that's when I had my epiphany and the aha moment of what it meant to me with what the relationship and that, that upbringing and that stability that they provided.
No doubt.
Appreciate that. Hey, so park it right there. We'll get back to the chat questions. And chat, Please keep those going. There was an acknowledgement by Charles Newman I want to read. Powerful acknowledgement. He says that this brother is one of the most intelligent men I know. He knows how to take his experience and transfer all of his skills. Excellent father, husband, and businessman. True. He put resonance man, but he's a scientist. He meant Renaissance man. True Renaissance man. And I couldn't have said it better, bro. You know what I mean?
Facts.
Man, couldn't have said it better. Now, being from Chicago on the South Side, and then we're about to get into, more current. How many males that was in your circle, I would say, or maybe grew up around you, we'll put it that way. Did you say, would you lost to prison, or maybe you lost to death, murder, things of this nature?
I would probably say I was probably more sheltered for those that I had experience with that were in, that did the activities that I was doing. And so those that went to high school and that was around my neighborhood, I definitely lost, a number of people from.
Like you would hear about people.
Oh yeah.
Person got shot.
And my neighbor, yes. So I'll give examples. I had my neighbors next door. They had 3 boys and a daughter, and the daughter youngest. And I would say that they all started out in St. Leo in the education system, but because of changes in life and society and what people you need to pay the bills and keep the lights running, and you got to do what you have to do. So when they weren't in that same type of a system, that's when you started seeing, as in my example, the fallout. So they might not have finished high school. They would have been in the service. Then going into the service, then they got caught up into, some things that really changed their lives. And it turned them, so I had that as a direct example. And then this, when you talk about people around me, this was somebody that was older than me that I looked up to from a mentor perspective, coming along. But because, and I never forget, my neighbor wanted to be a pharmacist. He ended up down at SIU, couldn't make it at SIU. And I remember him coming back and saying that his first year was just so rough because he had a C average. And so he ended up withdrawing, and then he ended up joining the service. And then I think he got hooked or got some exposure to some LSD and some other crap, and he never was the same.
Never came back.
His entire life was just, a brother hanging out on the corners, walking, around, trying to, with his hand out asking for something. And this cat was sharp. He was this brother. He could play the saxophone like nobody else. He had a vision, direction, and it just immediately. So there's others that were in the neighborhood that I know of that that
succumb to sort of the pressures.
Right.
Some things you can't control. You were at this school in this environment, and then now things happen financially. Maybe the family splits. Now you're at the public school or the pre-prison, and it's a different environment, and it's different rules there. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those were, for me, those were the, kind of, some of the brothers and sisters that you kind of saw a diverge or a little bit of a split. But for the most part, everyone else that was at least in my circle, the good majority, I know we were there, high school, or I know the high schools that they went to. I know colleges. I know what their their career aspirations or things that they ended up doing. So by and large, I would tell you, for me at least, my kind of sphere and circle, it maintained itself. People maintained themselves. They achieved in their own, kind of different ways, but it wasn't like those that, how I think, as you said, through some form of timing ended up dropping out and ended up into other environments. And because of the environments and their exposure, it was a radical change. And so it was hard, for them to recover.
Okay. What advice would you give to your 9-year-old self? Remember when you were 9, something that your wisdom, now that, man, if I knew that, would have been nice. Not what you would change, because you wouldn't change a thing, but what advice would you give yourself? Might be reinforcement of things that,
Yeah, I would say the 9-year-old self, the reinforcement would be more with the outreach that we talked about in the networking, and being able at that time to gather more information and knowledge and other options. And again, I say that you always are, I'm a firm believer, you're a product of your environment. And so I remember when our line, after we had went over, and we, you've heard us on, on
Greater Beta TV
and some of the stories, but you've been to my ship's crib, McKeever. McKeever's exposure, when we went over as a line, they had a crib, that we went snowmobiling, and that was their second, kind of one of the homes. I didn't have that exposure as my 9-year-old self. So I was in college, and that's where I, had an understanding of, oh man, people got multiple cribs and
right.
and exposure that they get access to. So
generational wealth they're passing down. Yeah.
So my 9-year-old self would be, grasping that. I think I did pretty good. I mean, I was able to, when I did get exposure, like to playing golf, and there's things that I had access to, ice skating, that I didn't really get into engage with it as my 9-year-old self. So therefore it was not one of my major options for me to assess how can I leverage that.
Yes, bro, and this may not be exactly what you're talking about, but yes, I've had people like, what do you mean you turned that invite down? You know what I mean? Why didn't you show up? I'd be like, yeah, the owner of the company and the district manager came out. They invited me to lunch. I'm not going out there. I'm about to go to McDonald's. You know what I mean? Yeah. But you might be good at what you're doing. You're great at what you're doing. So you're not worried about job security. You're not going to be a kiss butt. But it's not about being a kiss butt. It's about making moves.
Yeah. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. All right. And before we check the chat for those great questions, so as a silverback, and we say that because Self Love and I, we want our silverback, as a big homie, so to speak, what advice would you give to a young male, urban, black, so-called, in Chicago on the South or West Side? Like, what advice would you give to him singularly? What's going to be important for him? If he's up against it, he might not have the parents you got. What's important?
And again, I would tell this to that individual, just like I would tell it to those that it might be right there for them, because even when it's in their face, they don't have the same possible appreciation. And that communication to me is, you have to have options. And you might think that I love this, I want to do this particular activity, but I always communicate and talk about, you need to have options. I tell it to to my kids, my kids' kids, and any others that I can speak to, because you want to be able to have those options and let those options build, on themselves, and they will spread. And then you can decide how to put a couple of different game plans together. So the options is critical. And so if something isn't what you thought it was going to be, you shouldn't quit. You should see it through until, you can make sure that there's another option that you have and that you're getting access to. And again, for us that have, had to go to, Carter G. Woodson to have a place to study, or libraries, because that might have been the only spot that you could get to on, there was something on the South Side, because you weren't going to get any kind of books, for example, in your options on, remember that library we had that was down on just past on 79th Street off of Loomis or whatever. You probably don't even know it. It was like, one of these, you go in and they just got the books.
And if you needed a book, you had to order it and wait.
Right.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah. So you needed to make yourself available to, to have an option to go to another library in another location. And if that meant I had to get on a couple of buses in order to get over to 95th, in Halsted, then that's the option that I needed to do. So I think you want to make sure that as you're doing these activities or things that you like, and then you can do the combination, because one of the other keys that I communicate is, if it was a slam dunk or it was something so easy, somebody else would be doing it. Trust me. So you got to pay some dues as well. And so in order to have your options, that means you're going to have to investigate and try some different things in order to know what works.
Facts. Okay. Self, what you got in that chat, bro?
Charlie Newman asked, how did you have the foresight to enter into the cybersecurity space at its inception?
So, very good question. And when we went, I'll go back to education. There was no such thing as cybersecurity from a discussion. Charlie, we knew you would either have, going to Illinois, it was a prestige to go there and want to get your engineering degree, or you wanted to be able to get your accounting degree. Those were kind of the two big areas. And then the rest of us was either pre-law, pre-med, or had wishes and desires. And those are the kind of disciplines that we were exposed to. For me specifically, the way that the security piece came out, and for those that don't know, when my foresight originally was taking a look at, and I wanted to, after I had gotten my degrees at Northwestern, I had an opportunity to be in financial services with, what's it called? Wasn't Discover, it was one of the Citibank, Diners Club card. Okay. And they were looking at having someone to lead kind of the expansion of their program. That was financial services, or it was healthcare. And for me, this was right when Clinton was looking at the entire healthcare system and what the different demands were. And so I had been in the Bell system there in Chicago for just under 10 years. And once you get to 10 years with an organization, and especially at Illinois Bell and with the telephone companies, you kind of got that moniker as you're a bellhead. And so I didn't want to be a bellhead. was one of the key elements. Right. But when I looked at the healthcare piece, I knew that was going to be something that was going to be booming. And so that's how I started making a pivot and trying to look at what's going to be next on the horizon and where is sort of the pendulum moving towards. And that's when I started that type of thinking. And what got me into the security space was when I was with Reynolds & Reynolds, it was all about Y2K. So remember, everybody thought that all of our clocks, all of our systems, everything. You would get on an elevator and it was just going to crash.
It was a big money grab.
We had major generators.
It was all fear. They sold a whole lot of fear.
Right. I'm telling you, industries did a lot of that. But right there with Y2K was coming along with the internet. And so that's when you could share data, you could share email systems all within a closed system, but with the internet expanding upon that. And so with Y2K and looking at the opportunities, and this is where the options piece comes in, because I had been passed over for a couple of vice president promotions. I remember
at Bell or at Phillips.
No, this was at Reynolds.
Reynolds. Okay,
yep.
Yeah.
And so at Reynolds, I had responsibility for development and deploying all of their technology. So you name the platforms, I was over, the development of it at some point, everything there. And they had an ERP, system, which was their hub system that would work in an automotive dealer's environment. And it also ran all of the car data and information that when you go to your car dealership, if you get a GM or a Ford, back then you used to, before you had a rental system or an ADP, you'd have to have these multiple computer systems on somebody's desk, which was about as antiquated as you could think about something.
Yeah.
So Reynolds was able to have one hub software. And so I managed and developed all of their sales management, their contact management, their basic, structure, their fixed operations, asset, all of those types of solutions. And what they did was they promoted a chick that was in finance. Now, loved her. She was a good person, but she had never dealt with product management, development, hadn't brought anything to her.
Leading the whole team,
Right. And so she got that next, and at this level, this is an officer level at $1 billion plus corporation.
Man.
So, and I was just right under that. And I said, wait a minute, if this is a goal, what am I going to have to do in order to get over this hurdle? And so at that point in time is when
she's probably a hot blonde with big fake, big fake. Go ahead.
Right.
I digress.
So what they did was they thought they were just going to throw me some old, turd or a dog to,
a bonus.
I took it as an option. And I said, okay.
Yeah.
They said, look, the healthcare as well as the financial sector industry has privacy and security laws and issues. We need somebody to develop the business case and the plan for it. And in 2002, I was asked to, and this usually, if someone asks you to do what they call the proverbial project, the special project is how you used to look at it. Most people don't want to take it. It usually takes them left of what they think their career and their opportunities are. But again, I looked at it as I'm going to take this option and I'm going to turn this into something powerful. And that's how the security piece came in, because at that point in time, I took a look at some of the privacy and the data protection laws, and I was one of the first to combine it with the IT and the security department. And I created it as one, and I communicated not only internally, but I also showed, because I had the experience of managing products and the sales experience of in the beginning of my days.
Right.
That
helped him when he was talking to Congress. Right. Go ahead, bro.
Right.
We'll get into that.
I made it something where I had a value proposition, and I showed that it was more than just doing something to be compliant, that it was the lifeblood and something that would generate revenue and sustain a business. And so when you're able to have that conversation, it blew them away, it shocked them, but I was on the cusp of turning something and combining it, I guess, to Charlie's initial point here, where not only did I look at it, but I got on the ground floor, coming at it from a business angle and a business where a lot of my peers, if they grew up in IT only, they're pretty much tunnel vision and they can only see the technology. And so that's how I was able to combine and transition it into something a lot more powerful and something that any of the C-suites can resonate with, which also allows me to have a step ahead and a leg up, over others.
Yeah, and it sounds like it was a time where the Fed, you mentioned the president at the time, Clinton, so they were throwing money at the issue too. So it was going to be a need, and even if you sacrificed and got in at the ground floor, you knew through your skills and your ambition and everything else, it was you saw the potential risk reward, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, hey, just for anybody who's just coming in, we're with global cybersecurity specialist, and this is Michael McNeil, and he's also working for McKesson, and we're about to get into that side of it extremely shortly. And I did want to give a big shout out on his behalf and my behalf on the Kappa League, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we want to give a big shout out to those guys at the with the Kappa League.
Yo.
So and and a yo. So and big ups to all the ticks and training, I guess, right? So self love. I wanted to is there one more question in there, and then we're gonna play a video just in case we want to hit the men's room right quick, and then we'll be right back. Mike,
Not
so
really
there's
a question, but a couple of statements.
comments.
Yeah, comments.
Well, Brother Norman said excellent explanation. So we just want to park it right here, bro. We're gonna play a quick video, so you feel free to Self, if you could stop his video and mute him. You can stretch your legs out, bro, and we'll be back in 5 minutes and with about 45 more minutes worth of questions.
Gotcha.
Appreciate you.
I'm not a co-host. I can't.
Oh, okay. I can stop it. I got it, Newt. Yeah, so we'll stop it. I'll make you co-host too, Tori. So let me go ahead and mute, brother.
Hold on.
Okay, he's muted. And then make Tori co-host. Every time I push the button, stuff's jumping around. Yeah, it's showing some graph on your screen. Oh, no, that's my screen. Ignore me.
I hope this is it.
It's the one, I think the wheel.
That's it. That's what's running.
Okay.
If you want a thing bad enough to go out and fight for it, work day and night for it, give up your time and your peace and your sleep for it, if only desire of it makes you quite mad enough never to tire of it, makes you hold all other things tawdry and cheap for it, if life seems all empty and useless without it, and all that you scheme and you dream is about it, if gladly you'll sweat for it, fret for it, plan for it, lose all your terror of God or man for it, if you'll simply go after that thing that you want with all your capacity, strength, and sagacity, faith, hope, and confidence, stern pertinacity, if neither cold poverty, famished and gaunt, nor sickness nor pain of body and brain can turn you away from the things that you want, if dogged and grim you besiege and beset it,
What are you looking at, slave?
To the Copper League car, man. My bad.
I suppose as love grows, she shall expose the amateur pros whose eyes were once open, but today sewn closed. No amount of hoping can disguise the despised woes endured by the hungry black children suffering within these United States of ghettos. I suppose my world will explode, for it is gold and my bond got waved like the pre-emancipated slaves. I reckon love is continuously to and fro like waves, sometimes at the intersection of well-lit shores and others dank, dark caves. Love is aromatic sage and the marination of old age. Love is rage.
Hey Dad, I have a new idea for Christmas.
You're muted.
Run that video. Run the video that you just stopped.
Hey Dad, I have a new idea for Christmas gifts this year.
Great, Skylar. What's the idea?
Say Eureka Africa.
Eureka Africa. What's the idea?
Say Eureka Africa.
I just did. But what's the idea?
That's the idea, Dad. SayEurekaAfrica.com.
Oh, SayEurekaAfrica.com.
SayEurekaAfrica.com, where you can get all of your awesome handmade African clothing and accessories for a great price.
Great, let's go order now. I just got hooked up by SayEurekaAfrica.com.
Okay, bro, we can stop that share. And let's get Mike Mack back in the building. Let's see here. Get him unmuted. Start the video. All right. Oh, I was hitting Tories. I guess you figured it out, bro. All right. So we appreciate everybody's patience. We're back. And so I want to ask if in any way, how does being a African-American, how has that affected you in your career, if in any way?
In many ways. Again, I would go back to some of the lessons learned, from high school. And again, it probably was more of reality than the one that I was nurtured in, through grade school, where it was, common Black faces and people, mostly of color. And, we had one or two white kids that were there in grade school that were still in the neighborhood. But when you look at the work environment and the higher up that you get, and over a course of time might be better. We are trying to improve, but obviously there are no, I did a panel just to show you, and I had a brother that was trying to get 4 African-American chief information security officers at corporate. And he must have canvassed LinkedIn, and he said that he had gone through over 1,000 plus names in order for him to try to get just 2 people that he ended up getting. And so once he got to me, I said, yeah, there's a small nucleus of us and we know each other. So I gave him a sister that I knew, plus another brother for us to make that particular panel. So if you think about my environments that I'm in, and I'll go back most recent, the past 8 years with Philips. Well, Royal Philips is a Netherlands Dutch-based company, and at the officer level, there was absolutely 0 other people that looked like me.
And I think in their country, they don't have, like the way you said, where you grew up, you didn't have any experience with them. They didn't have any experience with us.
They did, but it's kind of interesting because when you talk about diversity, at least at that point in time, their definition of diversity was to put white females at a senior role, because male female is how they looked at diversity.
Yep.
Was there brothers that were, working in, that grew up and was in the Netherlands? Yep. But the high levels that I saw, they were working, traditionally in custodial and other areas within the organization.
Wow.
But according to them, they would be appalled if you would have thought about how we look at what roles, what activities, what level of influence would someone have. So it is something that it plays on itself, and it's a trade that not only did I have to, over the course of my career, have to learn how to be the only person in the room, I needed to also learn how to be the only person that might even be within, in a new country, in a different room. The room's still the same, but when you add that other dynamic that everybody in there is speaking Dutch, and they could be calling you all sorts of things. Sitting there, and they will continue the conversation.
And then even because I was on the elevator with a guy I worked with. He spoke Spanish. He looked like you and me. His family was like Dominican or something. And these 2 Mexican girls got on, and they were just talking away in Spanish. And then he said something to him in Spanish as we're exiting the elevator. I'm like, man, they were talking about us. He was like, well, they were talking about his shoes. They liked his shoes. So he was saying that, when you hear people, they're not always just calling you derogatory names, but they do be talking about you though. It just might not be negative. They could be saying, it's a nice suit this black guy has on. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's a trip, man. So, but on the flip side though, also it's a subtlety of just being black. If there's not a lot of us in that industry, we're missing those 6 degrees of separation too, that connectivity. So somebody might come from over there and work at your company, and that's Self Luv's uncle. He's Dutch, and you know what I mean? And that means something. That means something. And we don't have that if there's not a lot of us involved, where you could say, hey, that's Mills, he's a beta noob. You know what I mean? If we're not at the table.
No, and again, that's why it's been so critical for me when I've gotten to a certain, experiences and levels, that I am a very staunch, when you see the organizations and some of the things that you named, and bringing other people and giving them opportunities that they never would have had, so that I can have now more of that nucleus of, hey, Mike Mack is over at, McKesson, and I knew him when we worked at Pitney, and someone that I'm now interviewing with, they'll give me a call and say, you know what? Todd is my man. He worked for
Right.
me. I was at this one. I know what he
Man.
did.
Track record. Yes.
Yes.
Right. And they can't say that about you if they're from the Netherlands and you're from the south side of Chicago. It's going to be less people talking on your behalf like that, you know, and that's just something why we need our own ownership, which, you know, everybody knows. So I'm going to ask you one more and then see if there's something in the chat. Well, actually, they asked you that one. So that's a great one. Okay. When you were with Phillips, what were your duties and, you know, any accomplishments while you were there?
Sure. I think that so my duties while I was there, if you can, and I'll tie into a little bit of some of the promo video discussion talking about the security of nanotechnology.
Yeah, the future. Yes, we want to talk to you about that. Yeah, so go ahead. Yeah, let's tie that in.
And again, it's kind of interesting when I knew all the characters that was at Palo Alto and the chick at Gartner and Fort.
Wow.
All of them I personally do know.
Wow.
So it was kind of interesting because they're a little bit still behind, I think, with the times. But so when I was at Phillips and I kind of combined it as a combination with what I did and established with Medtronic as well. So these are medical device companies, and best way that I could present them would be when they develop and build that technology. So whether or not it was a pacemaker, and this is where your nanotechnology will come into big time play. In order for you to have your heart, and in order to update that pacemaker that's in your chest, or if you have Parkinson's disease and you put the same kind of a pacemaker in your,
when the updates come in,
updated that device, I had the responsibility of making sure that as it was developed, that it was tested by, I had my own set of hackers. We call them white, kind of white hoodie, white hat.
Good guy hackers.
Right, because they were ethical hackers. That understand what the code was. I also had a team that had responsibility to go out on the dark web and to see what other information was going to be.
So they're ethical hackers on the dark web, kind of pretending to be dark hackers just so they can kind of find out what's going on out there.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Again, let me just say this. In order for us to have the ability, when you talk about somebody from a career perspective, if you like, breaking into something or tearing up something or kind of, as they say, reverse engineering that solution, you got the right chops and at least the right DNA to go into.
Well, that's what's wrong with the police department. If I reformed it, I'm sorry to cut you off. I hate when I do it, but that's the problem. I think they need to hire, not informants, but they need to hire more ex-criminals and give them badges and call them, how did you call the hackers? Benefit hack? What did you call them? The good hackers. It's a term, ethical hackers.
Ethical hackers.
Yeah, we can make these criminals ethical criminals, and because it takes a criminal to catch a criminal. But go ahead, back to your point.
No, so you are exactly correct. So I had a team of about 50 plus people. They would work with all of our different products and businesses in order to understand where the compromises would be in the solutions that we had, and then I would have other team members that, to your point, when an ethical hacker or someone out in the marketplace can demonstrate, look, I can get into your device and I can, automatically make that pacemaker, stop.
You'd rather have them work for you than get.
Or the other products that we dealt with was like your insulin pumps.
Yeah.
For diabetes.
Yeah.
And so I could make you shoot an additional bolus of insulin that could
Wow.
immediately. So all of that was the type of ethical hackers that, even when they didn't work for me, part of my team's job was to have an outreach and embrace them so that we could make sure that what they learned and could demonstrate was just something from an academic perspective, and it wasn't a major, attack or a threat.
Because had they did that, something
Yeah.
like what you described, that would have been fatal for any company.
Oh, trust me. I have worked with other organizations and been associated in the industry where some people, they go in, and this is where you get into the ransomware kind of a conversation and discussion. When someone wants to disrupt for profit, it's kind of one of the other clips I had sent you. I was at a conference, and it was one of the, he's a great guy, one of my kind of mentors that was from the Dutch side.
Yeah.
Discussion with Jeroen Tass, and he opened up the conversation and made the statement, well, why does hackers and people like that, target banks? Because that's where the money is. and now when you talk about for healthcare and medical devices and products that are the lifeblood, why does someone want to target a hospital? Because if I hold that hospital ransom so that either I can, shut down the system, or I could force, certain patients to be diverted from that particular hospital.
Ethically, a hospital has to pay out. Ethically, especially if they can do harm to a patient. They all took oaths. So I look at it on the one hand, when they started that ransom, I'm like, those companies shouldn't pay. We're Americans. We don't negotiate with terrorists. But no, if they got you by the cojones, and they got you by not just for money, like medical, that's ethical, bro.
Right. So what my responsibility was to take a look at all of that and manage it within the company. And so what I feel proudest or achievement was, I didn't just do it for the company. I did it so that we raised the bar for the industry. And so when you saw I testified before Congress and then some of the task force, it was to put in new types of law and legislation, and what the Federal Drug and Administrations, in order to do that, they call documentation of pre-market, which is when you're trying to submit something for FDA approval, as well as post-market surveillance guidance. And so the cybersecurity guidance didn't exist until I was a part of some of the leading elements within that. And just like we have our nicknames with, the frat and Stony and the rest. Yeah. So in cyberspace, they call me, at least of the other medical and the peers, I'm the Godfather.
That's a great suit too for the Godfather, man.
No doubt.
Yeah. I see that all day, man. Hey, Self, we probably would have called, if he was a noob in the 90s running around the house, that's probably what we'd have called him too, the Godfather. Yes, man.
So, yeah, but again, it was to elevate the entire industry. So, and I took a few, arrows and bullets in the back for doing that, because other companies were not willing to put their neck out on the line and put their business in that particular position and their reputation. And so once they saw the program and what we did, then I had others that ended up following and then making the whole, as I call it, the ecosystem, hospitals, device manufacturers, the physicians, the clinicians, the government, they all had to now come together at the table in order to try to address the whole cyber discussion and issues.
So say I'm a young black male, or any black person, and I have a ability to hack. They're usually young, as you know, and like you said, the younger ones stay on the cutting edge. How would they become an ethical hacker? Would you suggest that they reach out to you, or can they reach out to me? And then maybe how is that? Because I know that's a fuzzy area, man. You know what I mean? It's a fuzzy area.
So there's a couple of different good forums, number one, for it. And so every year there is a national, kind of a convention, and it's called Black Hat and Death Con.
Okay.
It takes place in, it's like hot as Hades in Vegas, because it's the end of July, August, and it always almost kind of backs up. I usually end up going from Black Hat DEF CON, to a Kappa conclave.
Right.
So I know around that timing, but it's, up until obviously the pandemic, which we had to do it virtual, but DEF CON is the hackers convention. And at that convention, though, they come together to promote what they've been able to learn and to polish the skill sets. And that's a major outreach that they can go and look up DEF CON, and so it's there and it's available. And again, the government, to your point earlier, is that they're learning, because they now have, the FBI and Department of Homeland Security that I work with, other agencies,
NSA,
recruiting at Black Hat DEF CON now, which they've never even used to attend in the past. So I do think that's one major footprint now for any brother. Yes, I'm connected on LinkedIn. Anybody that wants to reach out has the ability to do so. Okay. There's other Black network for security professionals, or those that have an interest in security and technology. There's associations that I could get them access to, and that would also be another, really good avenue, I think, for them. But I think and again, there's also, we find a lot of people, they get their chops cut if they've had military and other types of experiences as well.
Because then they get security clearances and stuff.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Got you. Okay. Yeah. So, and then, and basically what I'm hearing too, if you're out there and this is what you do, and you definitely want to be on the right side of things, come on get off the couch, come on out of the dark closet, and come on out and come into the light. And, if you want to work for the light, come into the light. If you want to stay in the darkness, in the dark closet, hacking for whatever known reasons, then you're not going to be able to be an ethical hacker. You're going to have to, they're going to have to know who you are. I mean, Yeah,
so. And most of us, again, when I talk about raising the industry, what we do is we put a program in place in organizations where I do what we call a Hall of Honors and an award. Some people, organizations, they might do what they call a bug bounty, where if you find certain vulnerabilities in environments,
you get bonus.
There's some bonus money for it as well, depending upon how you do that. But because I'm in healthcare and patients, I don't want to pay people but we will recognize them. I will honor them. I will bring them in. I will network with them. I'll give them exposure to Fortune, 10 corporation that, they
connect the dot to maybe them now. Right.
Yes.
Man. So y'all got to act if that's something you can do, if you act, make it happen. Sounds to me, well, your Chicago upbringing, we have certain sayings that we use a lot, like wouldn't trust this person as far as I can throw them, or, lock your doors, or when you get to the light, don't have the purse on the front seat. Just certain things about Chicago, man, if it's not nailed down, they'll steal it. And I'm not being negative, but do you think that helped you when you said other people were kind of asleep on what was going on out there, that you were able to say, no, we got to lock this down, man, because these people will take everything?
You know what? I will build on that. And because one of the questions that I always get, which in my role is, man, in your role, what keeps you up at night? And you kind of mentioned, we just had a major hack initiative, probably one of the most sophisticated ones, because they hacked one of the security companies that everyone uses in the week and a half. So all of us.
Is that the SolarWinds hack?
That's the So yes, it is.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, we were going to talk about that, but go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So, and I can hold some of it, but because when they say what keeps you up at night, it is the fact that there is, we try to make this way more complex than what it really has to be. And there's, for me, just going with your same ideologies here, there's only takes one single, weak link that once you open that door, that means that, if my back window is open, but I got alarm systems and I got it wirelessly remote, but if the window's open, or if I give you the password to the keys to and you know how to unlock the door because made it.
And all the money is sitting there on the kitchen table.
It's on the kitchen table. Right. It's what we can do to ourselves is the critical link for me. And what I try to make sure that people understand, and again, I think this is definitely from my South Side and upbringing, I try to break it down and make it, very simple and very basic. So when it comes to 80% of security and where your major threat vectors or where somebody can compromise you, come into your back door, so to speak, it's going to be, it's an 80-20 rule. And what I did was I called it to make sure that my organization, teams, everybody knew where I drew the line. And I called these what I say is 3 deadly sins. Try to keep things basic and simple. I said, if you manage these 3 deadly sins, you probably are going to be in a better position of having your entity, whether or not it's your home, your work, your church, doesn't matter, secure. And the first one is, if something is encrypted, meaning the information, the data, it's not usable, it's scrambled so it can't be used. And again, you heard them talk a lot about data, because data is So if data that's considered personally identifiable information, which is the critical,
yes.
Yep. So if I got that PII and it's worthless because you have it encrypted, there's nothing I can really do with it. So, there's a lot of smart people and a lot of things, but 90% of all the systems and people out, they don't encrypt.
Right.
So
and you're like, why not? Why isn't that like, like real quick, I was sitting there watching a commercial and it said, these tires don't get a flat. And I said to myself, well, if human life is important, why isn't that the new standard? Like, why do we still have tires that can blow out and families die and kill other families that have the special tires? My point is, yes, why isn't everything just encrypted? Go ahead.
It's ignorant. It's the profit. It's for profit and it's ignorant.
It's so people can steal. But I want to hear, I want to hear his response to that.
So it's told on the encryption. Number one,
yes.
People are extremely, and organizations, they're lazy, but that laziness is because of their greed. Because
Tori said this yesterday. Go ahead, bro.
It costs money to change out legacy systems. And so in that promo video, one of the persons, they talked about legacy solutions. Well, legacy means that I got a hospital. The hospital has already purchased Philips MRI machine, which was developed 15 years ago. It was supposed to be in that hospital maybe 10 to 12 years, but they want to use it for 25. So the ability to go back to a system and encrypt the information on it, and this was a system that when it was originally built was not supposed to connect to the internet, not supposed to share data out of its 4 walls.
Wow.
So there's a little bit of
I got you saying,
but also greed, because it will cost money to change out that element.
You're in the boardroom with the board of directors, and somebody's trying to explain to them, like, listen, we got to break this bread, and they're like,
With the bottom line, how's that going to affect the bottom line?
Yes, because you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars at that point. You know, it's not like me and I got to pay $300.
Yeah.
It's like, man, yeah. So, yeah. And then he's like the bad guy suggesting that anybody's still in there inside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you're going to have targets on your back doing that.
Yep.
Somebody's got to respect it, and hopefully it's the CEO.
Is one. The others is if I give you the keys to the kingdom. So keys to the kingdom deals with your passwords.
Okay.
And so if your passwords are hard coded and they're already in the system, so that if I go in and I lift up the hood, that's the keys to the kingdom. And then I can reverse engineer and I can control that particular system. So that's my second of my deadly sins. And
but isn't that what happened with SolarWinds?
I'm gonna get
okay, but go ahead with your third. All right. I was telling I didn't think you were gonna be able to be here. I was telling your ship, like, I don't know if Mike Mack is gonna be able to make it with all the stuff that's going on, but it's not in the media like it should be. But go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
So the third is
this is ridiculous.
You need to be able to update a system. And so again, if SolarWinds, as an example, is a product and a solution that's in my environment, I got to be able to patch and update that immediately. And depending upon the criticality of that vulnerability, usually it takes, could be 10 days, could be hours. It just depends on how the system is set up. Well, most organizations, they do not do timely patches and updates.
So they just have a X amount of time. Like these patches are done once a month. It's regardless of you coming in and saying, Tory broke in today, we got to patch it now.
Right.
No, we do our patches quarterly. Is that what you're telling me?
Right. Or hey, wait a minute. Do I really need to patch?
Wow.
I just, I can put up other technology, firewall. I mean, they'll come up with all things, but the vulnerability is still in your environment. So if you can address those items, that's the biggest piece. Now, the SolarWinds piece, and it was kind of a two-prong attack.
Well, can you explain who SolarWinds is first, and kind of explain who they are? Because a lot of people won't know.
All right, this is gonna be a good opportunity here. Let me
because SolarWinds, I've been doing some research myself, bro, and it's just, that guy came out and took the responsibility, but they were saying that there was one guy told them that, y'all need to patch this, and he quit his job over it because they wouldn't listen to him.
So it's kind of twofold. The way that the SolarWinds, they kind of got burnt behind the rock and a hard place. So the first part of the story is that this goes back, I think, beginning of December, and there's a major security company by the name of Mandiant FireEye. That organization is probably in about, I want to say, at least over 50% of the Fortune Global 2000 companies. And what happened is that when they talk about East versus West, which is, again, Russia versus the United States as an example, there was a major cyber attack that was targeted. And this, again, think about our timing. This is all right after the elections. All the drama with the elections that was going on. But you have all of these, this is a security company. So organizations like, you name it.
The defense, the Pentagon, I think.
All of the government.
All
leverage.
All of your major Fortune 500 companies, all of their, not itself, and also their intellectual property. It was the keys. I understand they don't know what they're doing, but somebody actually got all the keys. And it's like, what have they done? Go ahead, bro.
And so it was the most, I want to say, in any kind of recent 20 plus years, it was the most intricate type of a targeted attack, because what happened was when they got into someone's environment, like the security company,
Yeah.
they were able to go. It was like I came in,
yeah,
I took the credentials, and I wiped away every one of my steps, and I came back out. And the only way that you do something like that is that it was very sophisticated and it was manual. Humans had to do it.
Wow.
Somebody sitting there as that black hacker.
Really?
And they weren't doing it to try to say, I want to get ransomware or I want to do malware. This was, again, that ability to demonstrate and
challenge,
to compromise. So it was to that level. Now,
Okay.
SolarWinds, the reason that they became they were the pivot. The SolarWind vulnerability is a tool that is used for monitoring the performance of environments and systems in businesses.
Okay.
So you had SolarWinds as a part of your what we call supply chain, and it's something that I use as one of my tools. It's not even a main utility. It's so if I have an HR system,
right,
I want that HR system to run my payroll, handle my books, understand where employees are. But in order to monitor that type of a system, that's where SolarWinds comes into play. And so there was so many other products and solutions that had SolarWinds as like a chip or component inside their environment. And that's what they used to pivot into. And again, most of these companies, the target was if you were selling and supporting the US government. Everything else in the industry was just collateral damage.
So, and so now your ship was just telling me today, like, I'm backing up some stuff and, we're going to have a couple backups. It just seems weird to me that all the powers that be in our nation, all of these great thinkers, come to a conclusion that, all right, this is the best company. This is the industry standard in protection. And we're going to put it all there. I mean, I think now maybe we can learn from this and say there should be 3 or 4 SolarWinds so that if somebody gets in, they don't have everybody's stuff. No? Is that not possible?
But now you go back to, you go back to the competitive nature, breed of the environment, because what typically happens in the security space also is that new startups will happen. They'll end up being cannibalized and bought out. And their whole goal is to get startup, sell. To
be cannibalized. Sell the technology. And
Right. And so therefore, when you get some of these critical components, there's not like there's multiple ones that survive, but we still need them in order to do that monitoring and surveillance and some of those critical activities that we need to do. And no one would have ever thought SolarWinds. So you're right. And I spent the past week or two, we're on with these companies that I'm describing. I've been on with the president and CEO of
McDowell, Douglas, all the big ones, Boeing, all hacked. Go ahead. Yeah.
I've had to meet with them and had the same conversation. And I told the CEO, he was explaining to me the process, what happened. Now, the irony was the president is telling us he was finding out about this as Department of Homeland Security and Mannion FireEye was telling the world. That's how they knew that their solution, and that's when it was.
That's crazy. So you're saying he's getting it when I'm getting it on the news?
He's getting it when I'm getting. So I'm saying,
oh man, there's something wrong, man.
So why should I continue?
Right.
To
trust you at all?
Is
Go ahead,
the blockchain a solution to increase security?
It is a solution to increase, but again, the keys to blockchain, you got to have trusted agents and partners. So I got to know that I'm doing a handoff with someone else, and we just don't have it out there in abundance where you got those kind of keys in the handoff. But in this particular case, though, this attack, it still would have been an issue.
Wow.
From that
Yeah.
point of view.
And they said, Self, that they don't know how, like, they've been in there a long time. That was the problem. They've been in there a long time before it was discovered.
Of course. I mean, it was easy. They got in through probably
Left no footprint and got out.
A mock company.
But that's what they do. And to this point, usually we know that they're in. And so that's why this Mandiant FireEye agent, that's what we use to do our monitoring to see who is there. In this particular case, it wasn't working because they had compromised the utility that everyone uses to do the monitoring.
So you're either criminally negligent or like, here's what I'm saying. Like I was telling Tori, like somebody might need to go to jail because if you're in charge of my security and Tori's telling me, yeah, some guy's been coming here staring at your daughter every day and then walking out and nobody knows.
And then the guy, the manager comes out and says, yeah, I'm responsible, man. I saw them go through the window.
Yeah. And they told me and I didn't change the locks or nothing.
Yeah. He had the
no,
key.
That's not good, man. Especially at that level.
It is not. And again, and this is kind of this goes into all of the disclaimers and stuff.
All right.
This is a very active investigation.
Yeah.
Your point,
man.
Each day is a new discovery as well as the linkage with some of the partners, and so. There's some remnants of activities impacting Microsoft. So this is pretty huge. That's been documented. So, yeah.
Bro, and I know you're on the East Coast. I just want 13 minutes. I know I told you 10, 15, but if you can give us 13 minutes, we can get through this. But if you got more, we can talk. But yes, man.
No, I'm on beta time now because I'm in Dallas.
All right. Well, cool. I'm not trying to rush you. I mean, Self Love and I, we love this. But that's right. You are in Dallas now. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, cool. I feel a lot less guilty. That's what I was sending you the text all in East Coast time and everything.
Yeah. I said, okay, you trying to make me feel.
Yeah, I can. Yeah. Okay. My bad on that. Man. So yeah, and the fact that like, I think the media is kind of keeping it hush hush, but
yeah,
bro.
Well, who's the target? The government. They will run their mouth when they want to. Come on.
And the media go deal the narrative of these 6 companies, or 5 is arguably, 5 or 6 companies that run all of the media, and they're gonna run that narrative.
And they were saying that, these are the types of things that our government or any, major war, before a war, these are the types of strategies we would employ. We would go into all their systems and get all this information and learn how to shut down their everything. So, this is me talking. This is not him talking. So, but any myths about your industry that you'd like to clear up?
I think that I don't think it's the myth goes back to my deadly sins. Everybody has them. It's almost like, there's not a family that doesn't have what they call their black sheeps or whatever that's in, because that's what families are. There's good, bad, and in the other.
Right. So everybody in securities isn't scum.
Yeah. So and the goal is that you have to be, and my biggest key though is the more that we could be transparent and communicate where we need to do the improvements and fess up and execute against that. Whereas to your point, a lot of people want to spend, and they will be spending a lot of time, just as you described, on how can I make sure that I can be more bulletproof from a lawsuit versus doing the fix, the patch, the update, making sure that the vulnerabilities is matched, and then to assure giving me that trust. How you're going to stop this from happening again? And that was my biggest point to the owner of the organization. I said, you're talking about patients and safety and institutions, and we can go through a lot of other, but how are you going to make sure that trust is there? And at least for me personally, I didn't hear good transparency and a discussion. So when you talk about what keeps me up at night, when they say in my kind of role, it's trying to crack the nuts and knock people over the heads in organizations that's still trying to play a cloak and dagger game here.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what we need, at least in the industry. Yes. Do I have the dark web? Do I have black hat, non-ethical, people out there? Yep. We know that. We know they exist. We know that they're going to be there. You never have 100% security. That's why I will always.
You're in mitigation. You're in mitigation.
I will have a job, a role. There's going to be opportunity, because if you lock everything down, then we're all sitting in a cave somewhere with no technology and no way of
Period. Somebody can get a battering ram and knock my front door down right now.
Man.
So again, that's kind of we need to be a little bit more open and, call a spade, going back to coming from Chicago. You got to call one, you deal with it, and you move on. And a lot of people don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You got a question in there, Self?
Yeah, no doubt. We got Miliac. Man, peace and love to Miliac. Much respect all the time. Said, great show. How often should you change your password for accounts related to financial institutions?
Every 90 days.
Wow.
You hear that, man? Every 90 days, bro.
Wow.
And you're saying that's with difficult passwords already set up.
Right. Yep. Because again,
it's serious, man. But go ahead, bro.
Identity is the number one element that they want to go after. And again, it goes back to my deadly sins. If you're changing your password, because and it's difficult. People want to remember and have something that is, that is simple. But again, even if your password is a phrase and it's, I get it going on with self-love, that's something you can switch up, remember, and move on and change. So it doesn't have to be,
really
semicolon.
Somebody told me that too, man. It was a guy from Israel. It was a computer guy. He was like, why you make your password so difficult? He's like, you just got to change them frequently.
You have to change them frequently.
Yeah.
Okay. 90 days. Okay.
But the reason we don't change them frequently is because we make them so difficult. Like you were saying to your point, it's hard to remember. And you're like, oh. But there's software that I just got where it encrypts your password. In other words, I still can change it every 90 days. I will start doing that. And it remembers your passwords for you. But then those places can be hacked too, right? It's like I'm giving all these guys my information.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
There's always, again, that's that weakest link component. And so, but again, think about it. If you've changed it and you change them and you rotate them through, the likelihood it becomes much less. And that's why the 90 days is what we typically would recommend. And again, do we have abilities with, like you're talking about, there's people that can have tokens and other types of tools that can rotate automatically. When you log in, it's doing what they call a second authentication or and so you have not only your password, but then you have another authentication that then you couple those two together, and then that's what opens the door.
Yeah. And I think that's the app, what they're telling me the app is. But the reason people feel this way, a little commentary, when I look at the McAfee guy who I use for my security, he was investigated by the government, went to jail. I'm not saying he's a criminal. Who am I to talk? Facebook is on one hacker way. Zuckerberg, I mean, this started, they were looking for, trying to pick up date hot chicks at Harvard, So I think that's why people kind of think, that kind of way about it. But at the same time, if those are the people in the know, those are going to have to be the people that we work with.
Right.
It's just so deep, man. It is really deep. Biggest mistakes you see from clients?
Oh, man. I think, I hate to to kind of keep it as simple as possible, it deals with those 3 deadly sins. And when I preach to clients, but to build upon that, and then this goes to the solar wind piece, is that if you're not, patching and updating your system, or if you don't have, the PII, encrypted, or you have hard coded, credentials that are already there so that it's the keys, it's like, here, let me hang the keys right here, for the door lock on the outside so you can get in. Even if you lock up those things, you still then have to go that next step, which would be understand what components that you are using. And that's the difficult piece. What we call it in the industry is, the terminology is making sure you know what is your software bill of materials. So, and the simplest way to think about it is, now, when you go to the grocery store and I decide to pick up this, bottle of water or juice or whatever, you see all of the elements that are the ingredients that make up that particular, that's in that particular food or, drink or whatever. Same thing in technology. If an organization doesn't know that they have solar winds, and then I come and there says there's a hack on solar winds, how do you address that if you don't even know
how important is security to you?
Component in your
right,
so
right.
Is the next, and so having that bill of materials, understanding of, and think about it, everybody now wants to do. And I think I remember hearing on my ship when he used WordPress and they use a lot of open source code, you still need to understand what makes up the ingredients so that you can then understand if there is a compromise, how to go and patch and update and address it. So that's the next biggest piece that I advise, clients or customers or colleagues in the industry is, you need to make sure that you're demanding what's the bill of materials, who are your third party and other partners that you're using when you deploy a solution. Because if you don't know that, then you can't protect yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, that leads me kind of into this next one. Talk to us about the burgeoning career opportunities in this space for any future silverbacks, anybody thinking about, because I hear it's like booming.
Yeah. This is, here's the key to it. Right now, like I said, there's a lot of the avenues, and this is one that I'm just going to be straight up. Even though a person might have, an IT or a technology or a degree or whatever, that's great. Mm-hmm. But I still want to make sure that they have, their certification in security. And you can get this, and you can get the certifications without necessarily having the full degree. Right. Now, you have to have certain years of experience, but it is not mandatory to have a college degree in order to get the certifications that.
So you can get the certification, get your foot in the door.
Right. And then you can continue to build. And this also, again, it's wide open. This is also one of those areas where I had good brother that was living right there in the same cul-de-sac with me, back in New Hampshire, right before we moved. He was working for KeyBank, still is. They were headquartered out of Cleveland. His wife got another gig on the East Coast. He maintains his job remote because he's managing everything through technology. So you don't be sitting in a particular location in order for you to be mobile and to have, and this is before, COVID. So you can set up your own infrastructure and your network and have your own elements, you can then also apply. Now, as you can imagine, the higher you start going up in the pyramid,
you're going to need more certifications.
You're going to need more
degrees.
certification.
Right.
You're going to then need to be more mobile to get to where the players are, to network and have the discussions at organizations. But the opportunities is limitless for right now, because again, and this goes back to that whole nano thing. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, the new crib that we're buying here in Dallas, everything on it is Wi-Fi. My fridge, my oven, my stove, my lights, it's all. And so they want, and again, you should see the security and the networking systems and the infrastructure that I have to put in place.
I bet, because you've heard all the stories.
Right. I know how to lift up and put on my black hoodie to penetrate something.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine, bro. Let me ask you, okay, so you were mentioning, well, I'll say this, say Self Luv, you know, wanted to introduce a vaccine, or any type of medicine, or, you know, I'm putting out a product, you know, it seems to be a FDA. Is there any type of, you know, oversight for any corporation, and, you know, at a certain level, certain size, or, you know, certain amount of information that they're now gathering? Is there any oversight where somebody comes by and says, hey, you guys are not doing nothing, you haven't updated in 20 years? Is there an FDA for securities?
Yes. So it's part of Department of Homeland Security, and it's an agency that combines inside Homeland Security with the FBI and with another, but it's under the 4-letter acronym of CISA, and it's, you know, it's a cyber security, but it's technically it's a part of DHS. Now, what will happen though is they will come and act like the kind of the quarterback. They're going to bring the FDA, they're going to bring Department of Defense, they're going to bring Department of Homeland Security, and they're going to bring Health and Human Services. All of them are still going to be there knocking on your door to say, I don't think you did your update and your patch this month the way that you should.
Okay.
And so when you talk about, and it's been an interesting, you know, ride, because remember, I started this gig, this newer one here, in the middle of COVID in April. And we now are distributing the vaccine and the kitting that is done for both Pfizer and, you know, Moderna.
Yeah.
And so we are in the heart of that. And so everything I just described, those are all the types of meetings that I have on a weekly basis with all of those letter agencies. And I have to go through, what are you doing? What is your program? What are the solutions you have in place? So Operation Warp Speed is more than just, you know, hearing some crap on. I live and breathe it, because I got to interface in order to meet the objectives. And again, once you get past the you know, at the highest previous BS level, and you get down to what you should be doing, I'm confident, at least. And again, I'm not with a company that's manufacturing it, but I'm responsible to make sure that it gets from point A to point B in a safe and effective way, and that it can be utilized with its original intent. So,
you know, it's funny, Brother Goose, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's an engineer, and you know, before we did the COVID panel, which I don't know, we need you to call those people in Palo Alto and ask them to store this. But say this, please call in a favor. You know what I mean, bro? Seriously, it's a box of cigars in it for you. You know what I mean? Even for your son. You know what I mean? Tell your son.
They lost your stuff.
Nah, I think my cat laid on it, and they have a policy. They have and I deleted all those videos, man.
I don't.
Now YouTube and Google said they don't see any evidence of a hack. So their policy is that they won't store them, but they can, because they have a cloud for 2 weeks, man. And it's just a matter of 1, 2. You know they can do it, you know, and you know, I'm willing to pay if I have to pay. You know what I mean? But bro, it's just such good. I mean, but anyway, I was trying to say this, Goose. I was talking to Goose, and I was like, Goose, my reservation about the vaxxers, this is pre-show, is the fact that they have to keep it at a certain temperature. And Goose was like, well, he was like, well, Brother Mills, he was like, because he's a scientist. He was like, well, there's people, he's like, and I sign off on it. And he just assured me, he's like, there's somebody in charge that's taking it very seriously. And I don't know if he knew that literally it's you. I feel a lot better. I mean, I just had this conversation with him like last week, you know what I mean? And he was like, nah, man. He's like, there's scientists. He's like, there's going to be people in place, systems in place to make sure that, the virus is at least going to maintain a certain temperature. And it's great hearing you talk about that, talking to the person in charge of it.
Vaccine, not virus.
Yeah, the vaccine. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Thanks, Self. Yeah. All right. So big ups to Goose on that. I want to hit you with some quick hits, man, before we wrap it up. But before we do that, can you recommend a book for the Self Love Nation?
It won't be in, this particular space. I got to think of, there's one of my mentors, and she just wrote a book, and I got the first part of the name. It's called Unapologetically.
Do you know her name? Maybe we can Google it. Self, can you ask Siri?
It's Shelley Archambault.
Shelley Archambault.
Yeah, mute your thing and ask Siri, and then give them some of the title, and Siri will find it.
Yep.
What's some of the title, Brother Mac?
Unapologetically is like a two. But if you put that in and you put
it should come up. Yeah,
it should come up.
And what's the book about?
It's about how to be able to navigate your career, your life, networking, all the things that we're talking about and coming up. But Shelley is similar to, type of career. She spent years at IBM. Mm-hmm. She ended up being the CEO for one of the compliance companies called MetroStream. She was also there at Blockbuster at one point and tried to tell them they needed to go digital, and they did.
They didn't listen.
Yeah, but she's now on either Verizon, on Nordstrom. I mean, she's on board, so she is at that level. Sharp sister.
Did she know the brother that created the internet at IBM? The mathematician? I can't think of his name. How old is she about? I mean, I don't want to put her age, but is she like?
No. Yeah, she's
she's senior, one of our elders, or?
Yeah, she's like in her. I don't know. She's in probably early 60s, if in that range.
She might have worked with him though. It's a brother, man, that gets credit for. I was gonna run a video, but
What are you talking about? You're not talking about Kappa brother. Are you talking about Rod?
No. He's talking about a Nigerian that
that guy wasn't Nigerian.
He wasn't?
No, he was born in Michigan. Well, his parents might have. Hold on, let me find it.
So
the road. What man? Unapologetically ambitious.
Yep, that's the book.
Take risks, break barriers, and create.
That's it.
Okay.
That's my book right now that I recommend and want, at least people coming up and getting an understanding. She talks about how to make sure that she takes every opportunity from a communications, networking, and asking the questions and answering, some of the tough areas. So Shelley would be, and her book just came out, I want to say a few months ago. So big up to her.
You would have told your 9-year-old self to read that book.
Yes, that would be what I would tell my 9-year-old self.
Yeah, because it sounds like what you were saying. Okay.
Yeah, she was one of the first female African-American CEOs in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, she knows this brother, man. I didn't think he was Nigerian, Tori. Well, I took it off of the thing because we weren't going to play it and I didn't want to confuse it, but I'll find it. It's going to bug me. Okay, give us a black-owned restaurant. It doesn't have to be in Chicago, It could be in Boston area or where you are.
Let's see, there's most recent here in Dallas is Lola. So that's like I get my catfish and get my food on. Back there in Chicago, I got to do our shout out to go to Tori's always making the run, and Charlie to the brothers, the Caribbean.
Yeah, on 47th, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's opened up a new one on out south, I think. I saw it.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I think I saw that too. In the south suburbs, maybe?
Yeah, almost, south, like maybe 140 something, but
yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, big ups. What's the name of his spot, Self?
Caribbean Jerk spot.
Yep.
There it is, Caribbean Jerk, y'all. That's on 47th. And then the other one you said is Lola's, and that's in Dallas. Is that Southern Cooking, aka Soul Food?
It is Soul Food.
All right. There's a distinction, people. You know, they're stealing all of our culture. You know, letting these pink people steal everything. Hey, I saw you in the congressional testimony, and we put that up there. And I just want to ask you one question. What was more difficult for you, your interview for the Greater Beta Chapter, or sitting there and answering the questions for Congress?
So the Congress piece, what made it surreal was when you come in with, everybody with our kind of scripted piece of what I wanted to communicate, and then I have to build upon that. So that part, but when you sat there and they asked you to stand and raise your hand and swear you in, that's when it was like,
real.
This is real.
Yeah. People have gone to jail for speaking nonsense.
When I had to do that, you got sworn in.
I got you.
You never, I mean, I had been in those same halls in a smaller setting when you were testifying. And once you were being sworn in, that was the consequences was worse than answering for Greater Beta and doing an interview.
Well, you just gave me a good idea if I could go back in time. You're going to give a testimony. It's not going to be an interview. You just give a testimony, and we've done our investigation. And you know what? Everything better be true. Everything better be true. Let them talk, Tori. But I saw, you got pretty, they were looking for you. They were, the Congress, they were looking for you. Like they trusted the information coming for you. And I felt like, and this is me talking to everybody, I felt like the people you were there with, they were like, not riding your coattails, but okay, like they needed you there. Like
underlings, they were like cowering down every question. Mike was like, I'll take that. I'll start with that.
There we go.
As usual, to make sure everybody knows everything that's going down and how it's going down.
Hey,
boss,
bro, and he buttered him up. He buttered him up. He was like, "We're working with our partners at the FDA," and he's like, "Yeah, we sit here and we hear nonsense all day, but somebody finally came here and said something good." You know what I mean? So a lot of that Chicago South Side, I saw it. I saw a lot of that. Yeah, I saw it, bro. I saw it.
Yes, it was.
And the suit.
If we can't bring that swagger and that positioning, then why do you need me there?
Right. Why am I here?
Why am I
about to sit here and be a part of this? Right. I got you.
Hey, on the side note, and I digress.
Oh, go ahead, bro.
I really thought that Brother Daniels was talking about my suit.
He probably was talking about you too. We're gonna clarify that with Brother Daniels. I think he was, bro. Hey, Luke, that moves us into the quick hits. All right. So we're there. And then first, before we do the quick hits, is there anything you want to discuss that we haven't, covered? Anything that you wanted to mention, or anything you had for us, that we didn't cover?
I mean, again, I think that this is not something that has to be overcomplicated. There is a level of, of understanding and expertise, but my goal has always been, and then again, this kind of goes back to the South Side and the upbringing. I got to be able to articulate and communicate to reach out to everyone. And no one, the worst thing that a person can do is to get enamored with the technology and the jargon, and because then you just lose everybody, and then there's totally no appreciation for what it is that you're trying to communicate or the message you're trying to get across. So that's just for me to reemphasize that this has been a very good dialogue to talk about a topic like this and how people get into it, how people can evolve, what would be some of the next steps. Really appreciate that, and with Self Love. So you guys, big ups, keep it going. So
appreciate that, Noop. Yeah,
thank you so much.
We had a brother, I'm not going to mention his name, but he told me, he works for major companies as well, and marketing and stuff. And he said that he had to show them. He would be there, and his company. He basically had to show them, basically what you said. We have to be able to move, with certain types of people to organically get our message out there. It's like self-love. We tell 12, the police, like, y'all need us to, if y'all are truly trying to stop crime, y'all need us.
Because frankly, criminals move ahead of the law, period. They move ahead of the law. So,
and they need people in the community. But if you're going to be a tyrant, nobody's going to help you.
Right.
Right.
They always say black people don't talk to the police because you're a tyrant. You've been a tyrant. You know what I mean? You've been a tyrant. Nobody's going to talk to you. Self Love said he wouldn't even tell his daughter to call the police if she was lost when she was a little girl. Go to that's sad, bro. That's sad. So that's something as a society, we're big on here. But to the quick hits. Quick hits. Have you ever seen a UFO?
No.
Have you ever seen an alien?
No.
Have you ever seen anything supernatural?
Questionable. I could say yes.
Okay. Is there a God, supreme God?
Yes.
All right. You gave us your favorite restaurant. You gave us your book. All right. Any big ups? You gave me in Self Love a big ups, but did you have any other big ups or acknowledgments that you want to give before you go?
Yeah, the when we didn't hit on it, but my foundation that I talked about, from parents and activities, but when you talk about, there's not a task that I've done after we left the yard that wasn't part of that foundation. So, running a sweetheart court and being a dean of a line and running Kappa Carnival and all of that.
Running stuff.
And
Yeah.
so that was what became just natural as you progress, because I used that from a foundation. So when I had to run, a 501c3 with the National Black MBA, well, that was probably, just about a $500,000,
just like Marlon, don't
he? Yeah. Did all of the same activities.
Yeah.
We had a ball, we had a scholarship.
Yeah.
We did a golf outing. We had a new
man.
So you
had to deal with different personalities. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah.
So all of that is a part of it. So that's my other, kind of big ups here, is that even though it's always part of my DNA, the frat allowed it to
cultivate it.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's and he's being modest about, those cats and, things they did for the Greater Beta chapter, and I just don't want to say too much on a public forum, but big ups to Cap Ship Confusion Conquerors, you know what I mean? Because for a lot of you cats, Greater Beta is, a lot of you cats know it. You can give it up to these brothers, you know what I mean? Now, that's not taking nothing away from the brothers before them at all, but I'm just saying, the iteration of most of us our age, and when y'all came up on that, you can give it up to these guys. So, hey, that house, all that, a lot of that stuff, man. Those guys was making it happen. And then they made brothers who taught other brothers, who taught other brothers, who taught other brothers.
That taught us.
Exactly. Yeah. So big ups to y'all, man. And Self, unless you had something else, Noop, I want to thank you. And after Tori's finished with you, you can show yourself out. We don't kick any greater beta Noops out.
Love it.
Man, brother, thank you. This is more than I could imagine. And I am very grateful. And the Self Love Nation is expanded because of your presence.
Man.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Been a blessing, brother.
Man. And call Palo Alto, man. I just even if they can't do it, I want them to say, ATN, they got 200, they got 209 subscribers. And who's calling in? Who? What?
Mike Mack? What are you talking about?
That's
Mike
all I want.
McNeil?
That's all I want. Whether they do it or not, that's all I want. I want somebody to be at the desk like, wait, what? Right.
Well, let's put it this way. I do spend money with Palo Alto, so they will hear from me. So let's see what I
man.
I mean, you know what I'm saying. That's all
what I'm talking about, dude.
Just so they can know, like TATN, we got people behind us, and that's what we try to tell the
we're
world.
not out here by ourselves.
No, we ain't out here naked, man.
Right. Oh yeah.
All right, Noopy. Love you, brother.
Love you, dude.
Man, yo.
Wow.
Yeah, Self, you got to be able to do all that for them. But he was savvy. You know what I mean? Get him out of there and all that. So, my God, Tori. Man.
I told you I was waiting on this one, bro. I was like, man, this is going to be expansive.
Yeah.
And we learned so much from yesterday's show. And today just said, shoo. It said, shoo.
It did, didn't it?
Man, I'm like, wow. He came into, I was the one that came up with that.
Yeah, and the video we ran, I know all those guys.
Yeah, well, I know all of them.
They're behind on nanotechnology.
Yeah, because I started all of that.
Yeah. And there's work out here, people, and you don't have to be young. You know what I mean?
No.
You just have to have a savvy if you know how to, right?
Yeah,
man.
Oh, I can see.
Yeah. You could be making money out here. Everybody ain't got to be selling
legally. You got to be doing all of the fuckery.
No, you don't. You
can be doing it legally. You can be
ethical
hacker, and it could be something that's really, really good.
Yes, you already like hacking, right? So
yes,
you already like sitting at the computer all day.
I get right in there.
Yeah, I can get in there.
You said something about me? Oh.
Yeah, and then you like calling people and saying, I'm in here. No, I'm not going to do anything because I don't want to go to jail, but I'm in here.
Or you do the videos like we saw yesterday with on the ring and the videos and taunting little children. What what kind of craziness is that?
Yeah, no, you're not gonna...
ethical. Come on, guy. You have the ability. You got in there. Just go ahead and be an ethical hacker out there.
Yeah, if you weren't a scum, you'd have called the ring and probably could have got you some money out of it.
Man, said, I know. This what he said, that was eye-opening. That he was like, oh, well, I'll look into the dark web and see. I got people into the dark web to see what's going on and all of that. Like, that was amazing.
That's why when I try to tell brothers it was CIA at the Kappa House, they look at me like I was crazy.
Well,
You remember we used to point them out?
I didn't. Yeah, we did. We like, yep.
Look at this guy. Nobody's ever seen him on campus sitting over there with a cap on like you and me. Yeah. Look at this guy. Yeah.
And they say we were conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, we were conspiracy theorists. Yeah. This guy. Remember they would be standing there like that alien dude I sent you. What was his name? Von something?
Yeah. No, Thor.
Yeah. Was that your guy? Was that the guy that walked up to you and changed?
No. This dude that walked up was on me and all that. He was only on the set because of how awkward he looked. You know what I mean? They were using him. Right. See, I was like, yeah, that guy. But he was following us around at points. You know what I mean? Because it was I was openly talking about him. You know what I mean? Like while we were on the set, I'm like, that dude was not from this planet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Well, it'd be real nice if Mike Mack just got somebody's attention up there in Palo Alto. You know what I mean? And like, hey, these aren't your
Man,
average
you
everyday
already
people.
know he's
You know
not.
what I mean? You owe me a favor. We can send him some cigars, right, Self? You know?
Hey, man, he already got our favor for life. He's,
Hey,
you know what I mean?
and we'll be in alignment with KK and Charlie Newman. You know? Yeah. You know what I mean? Forever and ever. Yeah, we're already in alignment. So
yeah.
But I want to say this, you know, since he left, he was plugging. So big ups to the National Kappa League movement. It's piloted by brother John Johnson, which is Mike Max Sands. That's Theta. So if he's a
480.
Sands, then that would be what?
480.
Right. Yeah. And he's an actor, comedian. I got to look this up because, you know, I haven't been doing TV since Floyd.
Forever. Yeah.
Yeah. So he plays the dad of Smart Guy. You know about that stuff?
Yeah. Well, I think he is the actor that is, you know, that's how you can identify him.
Yeah, but I'm saying, yeah. Have you seen the show or something?
Smart Guy is a offshoot of well, I don't even want to get into that. I've seen the show actually.
Well, yo to that Theta Noob.
But I didn't know that.
What's our boy name from Theta? Lived over there, went to CVS. You brought his name up during the house thing, during one of our house shows, and we used to go over there and burn sage in his house. You know what I'm talking about? Smart brother, man.
Beast Hoop graduated from Theta. Probably graduated from high school at 15 and Northwestern at 19.
Yeah, and stayed right over there in the hood, didn't
he? Yeah, oh, he's still there. He, you know.
Yeah, good brother, man.
Great brother.
So, yeah, bro. Yeah, that was dynamic, man. So I'll you know, we got more stuff coming. In fact, trying to look at the schedule here, Self, to see what we got.
I mean, we have amazing everybody, whether you know them or not, is amazing. That's why they're on the Self Love Show, because it's all about expansion and growing. And if I can take a moment to you know, break down the
please, yes, and break it down. And I love what you're saying too, because you don't know somebody like you think you know him.
I don't. Every single guest that we've had on this show, and it's a talk show format.
That's right.
You know, it's very important that we get this information out.
That's right.
And we are bringing on people that we trust to bring you spirit to spirit talk.
Lessons, not lectures.
Not lectures. No judgment, just how they persevered, so it could be an example. And, you know, in this world, you always faced with examples, and you can look at them both ways. Examples to follow or examples not to follow.
Facts. And so you brought the Self to me, you know, at University of Illinois, right? Yeah, man, we're Self. I'm Self, you're Self, we're Self. So can you explain to the Self Love Nation, which you were drawn off of with the Self?
That we all have come here. We come from one being. It's one mind, one soul, one spirit. And we are all part of the Self. And we have come here to this matrix and faked separateness to expand the Self. As all of us are made up of as many cells as we are made of, we in this matrix are all cells of the Creator.
Yes, itself. It's one big fractal. I'm gonna send you a video I watched.
Yeah,
it's one big fractal. Yes, yes, that's what we are.
Period.
Remember, you use the example, Star Trek with that. What was that?
Yes.
The big blob type. Yes,
I
used the blob, and we were talking about God is all knowing, but it's a fractal.
It's a fractal.
Yes, it's a fractal. Period. And when you look at fractals, there's certain numbers within the fractal that are forever lost, like forever just lost. And you don't want to be that.
Man, the fractal.
Unless you want to be that.
from my concept of the fractal universe, it is the smallest is the whole. It's a part of everything is part of the whole. It's not you can't lose because
if you zoom all the way in, you're looking at the same thing. If you go all the way out, but it's never the same. Bro, I'm gonna send you the video. It's mind blowing, man. I've been sending you so many of them. I'm like, this guy's got to be tired of these videos. So, but man, this one, and I know you're gonna be on it because you got that mathematic mind, man. Is it was right up when I oh my goodness, it's like it was a mathematician who did it.
I mean, the whole thing is I don't even need to see it to conceptualize it because we're all different. So it would have to be. I mean, the fractal.
Yes,
I've seen that the whole is the same as everything, but we're not all walking around here robots
looking exactly the same. Exactly.
So it has to be. I ain't even got to see the video.
Yeah.
To conceptualize that.
And the guy who conceptualized it was a German scientist, and he was one of the cats they hired at IBM, and he said he always had the ability to take mathematic formulas and see a picture.
Yeah.
And he said he latched on to geometry, and he was
his gift.
That was his gift. So he was the one. And so when he got with IBM and they had the computers, he was the first one because he didn't come up with the formula for fractals. With the idea of the fractal was the God self. And I used to think like this, bro. It's when we were talking about when we were playing the videos, and we do the fair use, right? We do the fair use, Snoop.
Yes.
And you remember we were like, man, we're running fair use video. And we're using their fair use video. It's a, and so the original person, they give it credit to some Greek dude, and we know that's a lie. But the concept,
well, I don't know because we're here all over the world. They'll say, "Oh, he's Greek."
That's true.
Born in a region, but
that's very true, extremely true. But I believe this was in the Egyptian mystery schools, if not before, because it was a simple concept that I had as a little boy.
Alexandria.
Which was, you take a formula, you stick the number through it, and you come out with a number. What's happening when you plug that same number back into the formula? It's not the same. And that's how the fractal was. And nobody could conceptualize it because they didn't have, you have to do so many mathematical computations. So once the computer came, this dude was able to visualize it like what you said. And he finally had the ability to plug it in on top of with the brother who, man, I got to send you that. And we digress. And like you said, you don't have to see it because I already know your mind be, on that. But next week, bro.
What we got next week?
We've got this brother mentioned that knowledge is power. Yeah. Yes.
No said. Oh man, that's gonna be a great. Oh my God, his brother was the first that sat down with us on the Black Achievement.
Facts.
So achievement runs in that family.
Oh yeah, knowledge, and he's a guy, he rubs elbows with, the Wu-Tang Clan and these guys, these guys. I mean, they respect him, he respect them, and businessman, entrepreneur.
Long time in the hip hop Chicago. Ownership. That's not his business. He's ownership though.
Ownership, not slaveship for this guy.
Oh my.
Right?
Yeah.
I wonder when was the last time he punched the clock.
Well, I think that's one of his streams of income.
Okay.
And he's high up in it, he doesn't have to go in.
Oh yeah, well I hear that a lot. A lot of people getting bags and don't have to go in.
Way before the COVID.
Yes, way before the COVID.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Just have to mastermind it, huh, Self?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll get a video out on it. A nice little promo joint for this brother, knowledge, and he's gonna tell us how he moved, and can't wait to expand because this network, Self Love, and I, this nation, we got a lot of people behind us. We out here naked, Self.
No, man, we got backing, man, from way on high.
What they say, as above, so below.
Yeah, and we got different dimensions. Got our back.
Yep. It's almost like some, eternal regulation. You know what I mean? Cats are working in every arena and aspect of this pink society.
He's right.
Right? Every arena. So, yeah, man. So that's what we got. Self Love. Did you have anything you want to close out with, good brother?
I just can't say enough how much every conversation we've had has expanded myself, and as a result have expanded all of the Self-Love Nation. And man, the music that's coming.
And you know what, bro? You expect, right? We expect to be expanded, but man, what blows your mind is
exponential.
Yes, you get expanded beyond. Right? Am I making sense?
Yes,
you get expanded
what you expected. Like you can't
beyond what you expect.
It's like exponential. Like
yes,
you know what I mean?
Yes.
We know that to the second power is times itself. We talk about like 5, 6, 10, 1,000. Like sometimes, like what you started this? You know what I mean? And
man,
and it's just all to reinforce to the community that we are that, and we can be that, and we can create that and make it all together. Just like every other community, let's rotate that guap. I mean, y'all already know the more growth and development. Let's live it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's live it.
Man, we could be fractals out here, huh, Self?
We are fractals. We can fractal ourselves and
that's what our ancestors did, man. Hey, man, they let me tell you something, boy. They idolized the animals. You know what I mean? They analyzed the animals. They idolized. They almost looked at them as their gods. That's why you see like a sphinx.
Yeah. They took the nature of every being and used it as a model for living.
Yes.
Like a god.
Of service, being subservient. Correct. That's the motto of life. Bullets are boomerangs.
Stand your ground.
Murder is suicide.
An eye for an eye.
Silence is violence.
You see something, say something.
Slave theory. Greed plus ego divided by fear. You're a slave.
Freedom.
Free at last.
Charity plus humility times love.
Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty. We free at last. Don't answer questions. Y'all stop that, man. Get off Vlad TV. Stop all that yapping, man. Get on code. Stop it.
Question everything. Don't believe what they put in your face. Question it all.
Facts. Flesh. Fear is fake.
Love is real. So make sure you vibrate at it.
Forgiveness and charity. It's the highest form of that love to vibrate.
So, do something charitable for your enemy.
hurt people. Hurt people.
Healthy people heal people.
Free Jeff Fort.
Free Larry Hoover.
Free the guys, man.
Prison of slavery.
Y'all walk on water. Be like Peter.
Man. Use that mustard seed of faith